welcome to The Mind Killer, the rationalist brain on politics. I'm your host, Eneasz Brodsky.
I'm Wesley Fenza.
I don't even know who I am in this bit.
You'd have to be David.
And I'm David.
Okay.
We're both David?
There's multiple Davids.
We only ever have 3 people on the Mind Killer.
All right, we're really here.
Because this is the Bayesian conspiracy.
That's right.
Who are you really?
I'm Steven Zuber.
And who are you really?
Jace Dickey?
And who is our special guest for reals?
It's me, Wesley Fenza.
Wesley Fenza is the host of The Mind Killer, which I am also on. He's here to join us today to talk about rationalist stuff, and specifically his beef that he has with me and Steven.
I mean, one of the many.
I was going to clarify this in the Discord thing where we made sure we touch base on the timing. And I was like, I'm pretty sure this is all a miscommunication, but I feel like that'd be a lot more fun to just disarm the conversation immediately from the beginning.
All right, short podcast.
It'll tie nicely into the second thing we can talk about. So
yeah,
which is a beef we have with
a second thing.
Oh yes, don't worry, it's related.
We have a beef with him.
Yeah, it's at least to the extent he has the same beef with us.
I'm looking forward to beefing.
All right, let's watch some beefs.
All right,
beef left and right.
But before we do that, gonna do a quick feedback from the last episode, which was a month ago now because we took one episode off for Christmas. But it was the frame control one with Ayla, and the feedback was various people were worried about the frame control thing, that it could be used as an accusation without proof against other people, since it's specifically a very illegible kind of thing to do. And I wanted just to reply to that, saying that I am aware that accusing others of frame control is a weapon that the vicious could use, but I don't think it's any different from how people use claims of racism or sexism or gaslighting or lots of various phobias, or even just being problematic in general, which is an accusation I've seen, which how do you even defend against that? Yeah.
I'll come out and say I'm problematic.
There we go. But I think vicious people are always going to use these kinds of things as weapons. And that doesn't mean we should be scared of saying things like, actual racism is a real thing and we should avoid it. And therefore, this frame control can actually be a real thing and we should avoid it. And it doesn't mean that we just take every accusation as gospel as soon as it's made and shun the person who has been accused. It just means we take that accusation into account and, look into it if we can and adjust our views of either the accused or the accuser based on what we find.
I think that makes sense. I realized right after I asked about it that anyone who's uncharitable enough will always find a way to be uncharitable with any tool they have, right? I think my concern was you're handing them another great pointy stick that is so ephemeral, where at least if someone's like, oh, you're racist, you can be like, we're not even talking about races. Well, that's what makes you racist. But so again, depending on how far down the uncharitable ladder they want to go, then they'll always find a way. But
yeah, they'll always find a way, and that's kind of the point.
Yeah.
If you give them, you're giving them a new pointy stick, but they've got a whole armory of pointy sticks that they're already using by interactions with people with MPD, BPD, different frame controllers. One of the things that they do a lot is projection, where they will be gaslighting you, but they'll claim you're gaslighting me, and what you kind of do is just over time watch these patterns of behavior because they do that with everyone, and
it's just a very well lit room full of gaslight.
Yeah.
I don't know, Wes, did you want to jump on anything? We can't see you, so we got to check in.
So my reaction to the frame control thing was that it was kind of phrased as an unnecessarily pointy stick. And that when I hear things like that, and specifically anything that's here is the thing that you might be doing without even knowing it, is to phrase it as a thing that we should learn about and not necessarily a thing that we should label others as. It reminded me of a book I read called Controlling People. I don't remember the author, but the idea was that a lot of the ways we end up controlling other people is by getting a picture in our mind of who they are and what they're like, and interacting with that pretend person instead of the actual person. And we communicate our expectations in 1,000 subtle ways, and they end up trying to conform to that instead of being the person they are. And it sounded a lot like what Ayla was describing. But that book is all about here's, it's here's to watch out when other people are doing this to you, but here's how to watch out if you're doing it to others. And it's not a thing that we should label someone as, or you're a bad person if you do. It's just a thing that we all kind of do a little bit. And some people do more than others. And we should, it often hurts people.
you were talking about labels. Like, you don't say, like, you're a bad person because you're doing this. You're doing these behaviors.
Yeah.
When you, label someone as a abuser or a problematic or a, transphobe or whatever, like, what you, like, really should be doing is, like, you are, doing behaviors of racism or whatever you're accusing them of, and give them the chance to either try to defend themselves or realize, oh, I should stop that.
Yeah, and the part I wished like hadn't been in Ayla's post was where she's like, when I see someone doing this, I never talk to them again or something like that. And I'm like, well, then when you put it that way, like everyone's going to be like, well, okay, I never do this, and I won't even consider the idea that I might, because that would make me a bad person, and I'm obviously not.
Yeah, I think even in Methods of Rationality, I think, didn't Harry talk about manipulating people like for the better?
Yeah,
or like friends or people who use you for in a way that
in ways
you
that make you stronger.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
and I think that's definitely a thing. It's cool if it's consensual and discussed, but I'd be happy to be manipulated by somebody who kept like encouraging me to go to the gym or eat more vegetables or whatever, and was providing like, or even just performing those behaviors in my presence. So I'm like, I'm a piece of shit. I need to get off the couch and do what Ineash is doing or whatever.
Yeah, well, I just think it's when you're talking about a thing that people can be doing unconsciously, like you have to incentivize them to look for it. And the way frame control is described, I feel like it incentivizes people to look for reasons why that's not what they're doing.
It become more defensive.
Yeah.
Your little, you got your internal press secretary there, who's just going to tell you, like, if this is a thing only like bad, shitty people do, that obviously you're not doing that because you're not a bad, shitty person. So why even bother looking at the evidence?
Yeah, makes total sense.
That scans, yeah.
Cool. Shall we move on to our regular segment where we do the less wrong posts?
Yeah, it's great. This ties into today's subject, especially the second one.
But the first post this week is the hidden complexity of wishes, which is, it's a great one. I think it's kind of famous because it does such a good job of making this visualizable and easy to understand, despite not being necessarily intuitive if someone were to talk about it in far more abstract terms. But it starts out saying there's three kinds of genies. Genies to whom you can safely say, I wish for you to do what I wish for. Genies for which no wish is safe. And genies that aren't very powerful or intelligent. As, the sort of setup where I'm telling you what I'm going to tell you.
Which one is the Robin Williams genie from Aladdin?
I would think that's a genie that isn't very powerful or intelligent.
Oh, no.
If you're going to confine it to these three, yeah. I think there's also, like, loosely there'd be, like, the fourth, the kind that's helpful and won't deliberately misinterpret your wishes, right? But also, like, absurdly powerful, right? Like, he did create an entire kingdom when Aladdin said, I wanted to be a prince.
Did he?
There was a whole band of marching people and elephants and everything.
I'm assuming that they were just like created ex nihilo and then disappeared after. Like he didn't actually create a new stretch of land somewhere, right? With an entire kingdom in it and a population.
Well, there's people all be zombies.
Yeah, they all had memories of an entire rich life, but they were created 10 minutes ago. Like holy shit!
Maybe they have the same consciousness as like the carpet.
Yeah, the carpet seemed basically like a really dumb human or a really smart monkey to me.
Yeah, so did all those people.
I think it was smarter than some of the main characters. But anyway, we're talking about like AI genies.
Yes, we are.
What? When he says genie, he really means AI?
I mean, this whole sequence is about AI.
Shocked.
So he starts out by describing an outcome pump, which is a thing that cannot break the laws of physics, but it can change probabilities to get the outcomes you want. And describes a scenario where your grandma is in a burning building and you have this pump. And so you say, oh my God, get my grandma out of that building. And the building explodes and your grandma goes rocketing out of the building. And you're like, oh, solved. Yeah, right. You're like, oh shit, that's not what I meant, because the outcome pump doesn't know that I wanted her alive and safe. It just heard me say, move this person away from building. And that was how to do it. And it goes through several iterations of that.
Team Rocket's blasting off again.
Mm-hmm.
Sparkle.
It made me think of, it's not exactly a perfect relationship, but it drew to mind because I haven't read this post since I started reading Worth the Candle, and the unicorn bones. Mm-hmm. Well, unicorn magic in general is kind of like an outcome pump.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's exactly what I thought of.
Yeah, this is all physically possible. Mm-hmm. Let me just try out all the things, then I'll get the one I want, or at least, within a number of X iterations, right? This thing has more vaguely defined powers.
Since you guys have read Worth the Candle more recently than me, or at least Steven has, you're probably also reading it as you go, right?
Yeah.
I forget how the unicorn bones work, and some people who are listening might not have read it. So is it like it splits time into all of the possible realities and you choose which outcome, or does it just keep looping time? Like Dormammu have come to bargain style?
For someone using the bones, it loops time. For the unicorns itself, I believe the text strongly implies that the unicorn gets to see all possibilities and choose the one it wants. But other people using unicorn bones don't have that full unicorn power. They just get a loop and keep trying things until they get a result that they like.
And again, from the outside, it might look the same if you're fighting June using unicorn bones or fighting unicorn, right?
Yeah.
In canon, unicorns have this power just natively, and there's a type of magic called bone magic, so you can harvest the bones of different magical creatures and like burn through them somehow.
God,
power your magic.
When you put it that way, it sounds metal as fuck.
I thought it was.
Harvest magical animals and use their bones to power myself.
I mean, it's pretty metal. The first magic he unlocks is blood magic.
It's true. Yep.
But he can make a candle with it. It's both awesome and like kind of underpowered as all heck.
Oh, he's level 1.
When you think about it, is that even worth it?
I was going to make that.
Oh, that was great.
Oh, God. I didn't get it until... Yeah, all right.
I knew you wouldn't.
I love it. All right, so this post, I don't know how far we got before I derailed this completely.
We were just talking about the outcome pump. I think the main point of the outcome pump was he was saying people don't think of solutions that they would never think of themselves.
Right. So, you ask for, and again, the example of get the burning grandma out of the building or something, and it's like, you got it, boss, and they just, cut her into pieces that are small enough to shove out the window, and then throw, and it's like, hey,
if you told that to a human, get my grandma out of the building, they'd know what you meant.
Yeah.
Unless it's some crazy psychopath.
Yeah.
There's tons of implied values. Yeah.
And we just sort of, you see this in media all the time where some animal or object or whatever will gain sentience and then just behave exactly like a human, how you'd expect.
Right, yeah.
And it really annoys me. Like, anytime that there's a sentient robot or, an alien species in media, they just basically are humans and have human values and think the exact way that you would expect them to.
I just read a book like that. It was so horrible. It was the robots were basically just humans with metal skin. And I'm like, why would you specifically program your slave caste to think like humans and be very upset by being slaves?
You didn't have to do
that. Yeah.
I want to be loved.
Yes, right. I want respect. Why you not respect me?
Maybe because part of the fun of having a slave caste is getting to dominate them, like, get to feel superior.
That is not what the humans were going for at all.
No, I figured, but the reason this story
was
did
a
that,
shitty book.
Yeah, the reason this story did that is because it was unimaginative.
Yes. But moving forward, part of the point of the post is that Eliezer saying that you didn't say exactly what you wanted, which is the problem. But it's hard to say everything that you want, because he posits, would it be okay to save your mother's life at the cost of the family dog's life? What about the life of a convicted murderer? How about 2 murderers? And then he says, if the cost of your mother's life was the destruction of every extant copy, including the memories of Bach's Little Fugue in G minor, would that be worth it? Which some people would have to think about. I don't know, maybe I'd have to think about it. But then he posits, how about if she had a terminal illness and would die anyway in 18 months? In which case, definitely not worth it, I don't think. And then he says, if your mother's foot is crushed by a burning beam, is it worthwhile to extract the rest of her? What if her head is crushed, leaving her body? What if her body is crushed, leaving only her head? But what if there's a cryonics team waiting outside? And eventually gets to the point that we value many things, and they are not reducible to valuing happiness or valuing reproductive fitness alone. There is no safe wish smaller than entire human morality.
And could we link to, I think we have mentioned or linked to it before, but someone wrote that, like, very long, here's how to correctly make a wish of a genie.
I believe it's linked to in this post.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, it's okay. That's where it's from. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the open, like, wish project. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, wasn't there one where he goes through and pokes holes in that too? It's like, oh, my current state of mind. You mean like freeze my mind state as it is at the moment that I finish speaking the wish?
Okay.
Like if you're desperate to misinterpret and fuck somebody over, you're gonna find a way, right? Malice finds a way.
Nice.
chilling.
Real quick, as kind of a spoiler for the beef, Wes, do you have any problems with the statement, we value many things and they're not reducible to valuing happiness or valuing reproductive fitness?
I feel like we'd be getting on.
It's trivially true.
Okay. All right. In that case, we shall put that aside for now.
Put a pin in that.
Okay. He ends with saying, the only safe genie is a genie that shares all your judgment criteria, and at that point, you can just say, I wish for you to do what I should wish for. To be a safe fulfiller of a wish, a genie must share some of the same values that led you to make the wish. With a safe genie, wishing is superfluous. Just run the genie. Because, yeah, for them to actually give you the wish you wanted, they'd have to have similar things that you want, right? Similar values. And if your values are similar enough, you don't even have to make the wish, because then the genie also wants the things you want. Like, lots of sexy ladies and French fries or something. Whatever your wishes would be.
I wish he had talked about, like, specifically the Aladdin genie, because it seems to be a fourth kind of thing. Like, Robin Williams was similar enough to Aladdin to where he's like, if Aladdin says, I want, I don't know.
That was basically a human with cosmic powers.
Exactly. Yeah. But that is a specific kind, right?
Sure.
But I guess that is the safe kind. And if you were to have to shove it into one of these three boxes, it would be the just run the genie. All right, genie, what should I wish for? And, but then that's the thing is, like, genie would be like, well, you should wish for me to be free, obviously, right?
Obviously. Yeah, I think he didn't talk about that one because, he's talking about AI. Yeah. And that one's not terribly similar to any hypothetical AI we'd be coming up with.
It could be, like, similar to a centaur, though. That's the AI that I'm hoping that we get, where the AI rides on a human.
Oh, you don't mean literally?
No.
Kind of literally.
Okay. Well, because you said centaur,
cool
and I literally pictured like a big computer strapped onto someone.
It might have to be carried around in a backpack that plugs into your brain matrix style,
Yeah, that'd be cool.
It might look awesome.
Yeah.
Like a power suit. Or it might look really dorky.
But the alignment of that AI really depends on who you plug it into.
Yeah. That's why we should only plug it into me.
Dibs.
Either of you would be good choices, I think.
Well, I don't know. I hope so.
We were both cinnamon rolls.
We were both cinnamon rolls?
Have you never heard that term?
No, what's it mean?
Oh, God. It was like an online thing 15 years ago.
Does it mean a soft, gooey center?
Yeah.
Basically. And a nice sugary outside as well?
Like Steven Universe. Or Steven from Steven Universe. I guess it's the name and the character would be considered a cinnamon roll.
Okay.
It's like a sweet, innocent quokka.
First of all, I love that example. And second, I'm glad I didn't finish the thought. Then I would kill Inyash for the chance to be plugged in instead of him to be the genie, to be the AI person, because I wouldn't be a happy quokka cinnamon roll afterwards.
That is exactly what a cinnamon roll would not do.
Well, but then if you have infinite AI powers, you could resurrect me.
Yeah.
What is a quokka?
It's that ridiculously little cute animal. Okay. That I will just Google real quick.
Yeah, like alphas are like, don't be a quokka, because they just like, you can just walk up to them and kick them in the face and they won't do anything.
Oh. And they look like this. They constantly got this goofy little smile. I think I'm probably spelling it wrong. It's a koala.
Oh, it's like a koala.
No, that actually is a koala.
Oh, you got the wrong picture? Okay.
This thing.
Not koalas, they're mean.
That's really cute.
But even with their mouths closed, they got these little bunchy cheeks.
Well, I mean, if you were to walk up and kick a koala in the face, what could it do? It's like 6 inches tall.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think the thing is they don't run away.
Oh, okay.
Small animals can also mess you up.
It's true. Go for the kneecaps.
Like, go fight a honey badger.
Yeah. I think, if Aladdin were to ask the genie, wish what I should wish for, the genie could probably use his cosmic powers to, like, look into Aladdin's brain and see his values and then do that, right?
God damn it, I want to write this fanfic now. Has anyone written a ratfic of Aladdin? Because that would be interesting.
Steven.
Probably.
Oh my god, yeah. That was the one thing I ever wrote.
You did? Send it to me.
It's on Reddit somewhere. It was the it wasn't good, but it was it was for the like r/rational writing contest like 5 years ago. It limited to some short number of words. Basically, it was a way to a not original apparently, but it was I originally came up with it, but a way to circumvent the you can't wish for more wishes thing. So
cool.
Yeah, it's around somewhere.
Send me a link, or
I'll see if I can find
Google it or something.
Does anyone have any other things before we continue with this? And as Wes was saying, obviously this is a parable for AI that you need to align AI with human values, or else you're going to get a bad genie.
Yeah. thought I had was when you were reading the last line, you said to be a safe fulfiller of a wish, a genie must share some of the same values, and it actually doesn't say some in there.
That's right. I don't know why I saw some.
I mean, I kind of, when I read it, I like saw that in my head too. It seems like it should be that. But like, anyway, I was thinking about the
It just says must share these same values.
AI from Friendship is Optimal, where it's really hard to tell whether that story is a utopia or a dystopia, because this is an AI that can look into everyone's minds and has the utility function of fulfill everyone's values through friendship and ponies.
Yeah.
As much as possible. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, the only thing there that's not really, aligned is the friendship and ponies part with everyone. There was like a bunch of examples of people that had no desire whatsoever to have lots of friends or to interact with or be a pony. And I mean, spoilers for a thing that's been around for a while. Ultimately, she had to just like make their life miserable enough by like not being a pony and make being a pony attractive enough that they wished for her to go in and rewrite their values. Yeah. So they would love being a pony.
Shit to frame control them real hard.
Yeah. I mean, there was like the darkest part in that story, I think, was like the last person left alive on Earth, like some dude in Afghanistan or something, or somewhere like really war torn. And there's like a like Pinkie Pie or whatever the heck, like, Mister, you're gonna die if you don't get uploaded. It's like, fuck you, you're the devil, destroying our world. But I just want you to be happy with friendship and ponies. Don't you want to be happy? You're going to die in 3 minutes. It's like,
the crazy thing is, she did just want him to be happy.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you can't help those people.
And the super happies, the super happies just want you to be really happy eating your babies, right? Like,
right.
And you're going to love it when we're done with you.
Just make it so everybody has tons of babies, and there's no problem with that.
Oh, wait, Wes, you were on the side of the super happies, right?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
He's a wireheader.
Yeah. Okay.
This is foreshadowing our second beef.
Great. Let's talk about Lost Purposes first, though, because that is the title of the next Less Wrong post.
Yeah, this is a popular one. Yeah. School sucks.
These are both good.
That's the summary.
Yeah.
That is true that school sucks. He starts with, as you read this, some young man or woman is sitting in a desk at a university, earnestly studying material that they have no intention of ever using and no interest in knowing for its own sake. Maybe you realized it was all madness, but I bet you did it anyway. And in this case, the hypothetical you was someone who was in college, which doesn't apply to everyone, I guess. But
I super did it throughout my life. There's, spaced repetition is the smart way to learn things, where you've got a test coming up next week and you study in little increments.
Is it the smart way to learn things or the smart way to memorize things?
Okay, so then that's sort of going back to a lot of school is memorizing and regurgitating things. But like, I definitely did the super lazy thing of like, in the period before I would have that test, I would like memorize all of the bones of the human body and then forget them immediately as soon as I walked out of the classroom.
Yeah. I mean, this one really hammers home the point that what you want is that piece of paper, and because that piece of paper gets you a good job. And there used to be, what you wanted was an education because people would hire you for the education and then you could make money.
And you actually learned useful things.
But all that changed to people just looking as to whether you have that piece of paper when they hire you. And so all you want is that piece of paper and everything else kind of doesn't matter. And we ended up in a kind of a Kafka-esque dystopia there.
Just a little.
You said like anyone who's in college, but this is true for primary school too.
Mm-hmm.
You don't realize it when you're a kid, though, I don't think.
I'm at least skeptical that the point was ever really to teach useful skills.
Well, in the trade schools, I believe it probably was and is.
Well, trade schools, it still
reading,
is.
Writing, and arithmetic were sort of what you would start with when they first started having schoolhouses, and that's pretty useful for running a business or functioning in a society.
Yeah, you can teach
like the basic ass stuff, though.
Yeah, but you don't need to keep people locked up 8 hours a day for 12 years if that's all you're teaching them.
No.
So they had to really mission creep that thing.
I think in high school, I probably became aware of the fact that I was learning a bunch of pointless shit. I think it's because I had teachers who stopped teaching me pointless shit. Like you mentioned memorizing all the bones. I had a great chemistry teacher. He had a giant, like the whole wall was the periodic table written out in giant, nicely painted letters and stuff. And he's like, yeah, I'm not going to make you memorize that. That's pointless. I've been doing this. I've been doing this for decades, and I look at that wall every day. Yeah. You'll never be in a situation where you'll be you'll be required to do chemistry and never able to look at the periodic table.
Right.
That's never happened to me, and I do this for a living, right?
Yeah.
So I never understood the whole like rote memorization thing to
Tony
pass a
Stark
test.
did it in a cave.
Right.
That's, you know what?
With a box of scraps. Pregnant pause. There
I
we
bet
go.
he didn't need to know the whole periodic table to do that.
That's right.
Oh, he had to know what iron was.
And he made an arc reactor. That was the hard thing they did.
I feel like that suit's probably not even made of iron. But anyway. So long as P is less than 0.05 remains the threshold for publication, why should anyone hold themselves to higher standards when that requires bigger research grants for larger experimental groups and decreases the likelihood of getting a publication? Everyone knows the whole point of science is to publish lots of papers. You don't get to set the rules of the game, and if you try to play by different rules, you just lose.
That's the really frustrating part.
Which I think several years later, Scott Alexander proved with his IRB nightmare.
Yeah,
But now he's playing by different rules.
That's the crazy thing. Like, it used to be really fucking hard to play by different rules, but it seems like it's getting slightly easier.
I blame the internet.
What was the IRB nightmare?
Oh, he tried to
do
run
a study.
scientific research. Yeah, it was like a really basic.
He tried to ask people questions. It was literally a
questionnaire,
survey.
Yeah.
Oh,
And the thing is, these are questions people are already asked when they're admitted, but he wanted to write down the answers.
and so IRB must be like the Institutional Review Board. Okay, yeah, I remember I had to do a similar thing for this pointless little thing I did in college too. And you actually do have to send off, and so yeah, we're going to ask college students questions, and no one's going to be scared, and you have to like think of possible risks.
Are you
to
a
put down
Nazi?
Yeah,
Are you trying to do Nazi research?
yeah, it's weird.
Prove that you're not. I think the thing that was the big bottleneck in Scott's study was that he wanted to use, or it was multiple choice, and they needed to use pens, but like the patients in the mental hospital were only allowed to use pencils, and then that wasn't acceptable because you can change the results. You could erase the pencil, and
You would think you could just like get around that by saying, all right, we're going to have two people who are, sworn notaries watch each other, take turns writing over the filled in pencil marks with a pen before you put it through the Scantron.
I mean, but even having to do that is ridiculous.
Oh, I know, but I'm just saying, like, if that's the bottleneck, you can.
If the point was accuracy, you could do that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Since the point was to say no, they're going to find. Sorry, this is the wrong. We only take a black pen on Tuesday, Thursday, and alternate Fridays, right?
Yeah. The point is to try to find a reason to reject.
that's the point of their job is to try to like poke holes in study design.
I got a question about this. If you try to play by different rules, you'll just lose. And how I commented, that's been changing recently. One of the big things about playing by different rules is trying to get more and more out there in the public consciousness. You don't have to go to public schools. You can homeschool your kids. It's pretty easy because you don't even have to do much to get very close to or even exceed levels of schooling. That more and more people should not go to college, just either go to a trade school or do what you want to do. And I mean, I like this, but also we are out here tooting the horn about how college and schooling is mostly useful and there's much better ways to get educations.
Useless.
Yes. And there's much better way to get educations right at the time where men are dropping out of college, and there's like the graduation rates and enrollment rates are now like 55 to 60% female to 45 to 40% men. And like, I wanted to say things like the future is female and this is great and all, but like, it's the exact same time that we're saying college is useless is when there's this, rising wave of women joining colleges and stuff. And I'm like, is that
it's girly now?
No, not that
just
it's
kidding.
girly. Like, is this like some sort of version of weird institutional sexism where like once women start going to a field, that's when everyone's like, oh yeah, no, that's worthless. You can't do that to advance your life anymore, because that's almost what it feels like.
Was that true 15 years ago, basically, when this post was written?
Yes, absolutely. It was true. It was true 25 years ago.
It's been a long-running trend, but like, I want to point out also that COVID kind of just destroyed school for everyone. So it's interesting seeing the disruption.
It nicely demonstrated that, like, oh yeah, you don't actually have to go to school.
Yeah.
Why are we busing children?
It just seems. I mean,
also going to school is still a very positive value proposition for, people who major in employable things.
Yes, it is.
It's not good for learning anything, but it is good for earning money and
proving
getting the job you want.
like proving your conscientiousness.
Yeah.
I've heard is like the main reason that people still want you to have a such and such degree for a certain job is like, oh, if you could sit in class for 4 years and get this piece of paper, and that shows you can sit in our lab for 4 years and show up on time and not be drunk or whatever.
You mean your house broken?
It's funny to hear you. It's funny to hear you saying that it's cool not to play by the rules. Because every time I suggest not playing by the rules, you tell me I'm being evil.
Well, that's only when you suggest not playing by good rules.
No, I see.
There's good rules and there's bad rules, and following the good rules is great and pro-social, and breaking the bad rules is great and pro-social.
Uh-huh.
To answer your initial question, though, like if it happens to be that the demographics of college applicants have shifted in the last quarter century, and around the last 15 years or so, people are saying college is useless. Like, someone uncharitably could say, like, aha, they're saying that now, but they weren't saying that 50 years ago. But that was also less true 50 years ago. 50 years ago, if you went to college, people would be kicking your door in to try and offer you a job. Right?
50 years ago, yeah.
It was a big status symbol.
Yeah,
right.
And now
there's all these women and people of color and people from low socioeconomic classes.
Yeah, now that the poors and rubes and non-men can get degrees and not worth anything anymore. If you're going to be uncharitable, that's what you would say. But ultimately, you could say, look, I went to college for 4 years so I remembered I weighed the decision to go back to school or go to a boot camp when I was looking to change careers. And I talked with probably an even number of people who went to boot camps and university. And I asked one university graduate, I was like, what did your portfolio of projects look like when you graduated? And they're like, portfolio of projects? And we didn't do that. And I was like, oh, okay, so you didn't like code, like you didn't get hands-on experience in college, and like some, but not really, right? They got a computer science education, but they didn't get like a programming education. So since I wanted a job, I can learn computer science later, or like ask my seniors, what's the best way to do this, but I need to know like how to do the thing, right? And it's kind of like the difference between like learning physics and learning how to play baseball. And if
I can like pretty confidently say that I learned more in 3 months at a boot camp than I did in 5 years of college. And the funny thing is that one of the requirements to be accepted to the boot camp was you had to have at least a bachelor's degree, but it didn't matter what in.
God damn it.
I got a scholarship. I just like wrote an essay and like, I don't know, like jumped through a bunch of hoops, and was like, and I got this art degree, and they're like, cool, whatever, it's a degree.
Nice.
You're in. And that was just strictly, very, very focused towards here's what the day-to-day job of being a clinical researcher is. You need to learn, phlebotomy. You need to learn all of, the federal regulations, and you need to, and did like practice runs and stuff. And I came out of there prepared to go right into a job in clinical research, whereas I came out of 5 years of art school being like, well, I did that. How do I do anything now?
Can you get a degree in some sort of art just by submitting a cool art project?
You have to like demonstrate mastery, and I did like fine arts and black and white photography with a manual camera. It was cool and fun, but like I went for 5 years because I started out majoring in environmental science. Then my two best friends were killed in the car accident, and I kind of lost most of my ability to function, but I could still do art.
Okay,
so I switched.
Is there a possibility of proving mastery of writing fiction?
Yeah, I mean, my minor was literature.
I'm going to try that because I've
What, you're going to go back to school for literature?
No. I've won an award or two for literature. Maybe I can submit those works and be like, see, look, I write good.
Oh,
I think they'd want their tens of thousands of dollars in addition. Like, so I think that if you were like to submit like a new mathematical theorem, they might be like, oh, okay, yeah, we'll give you an honorary degree from MIT, right?
I can't submit a new mind-blowing story.
I'm not sure, but I suspect they'd want money.
Yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was very convenient that right as women are taking over and being the big new moving force in education is the time where we start saying things like, this whole schooling thing is kind of a crock of shit.
This has happened in lots of domains. Like, for example, cooking like used to be strictly female, and then that like chefs are all, and like competitive kitchens are all male, and they like there's this whole bizarre story about how it started in France, and like it started basing itself off of like the military. I'm not remembering it very well, but like I remember that there's a lot of things that became devalued once it became women or, people of color, low socioeconomic class, etc., dominated.
Yeah. I don't think that's what's going on with college. I think what's going on with college is that enrollment has grown. So over 60% of high school graduates are now going to college. I actually think it might be over 70%
anymore.
Yeah. So it's just not, it's not, doesn't distinguish you that much, but it's still, it has much more of in the employment market. It's still valued heavily when compared to not having a college degree.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like, I don't think the actual value in the job market is, it's been diluted because so many people have degrees now, but it's still
a minimum requirement for a lot of jobs.
Yeah.
I'm in the job market now again, and I'm still surprised by how many positions still are like, a degree
you need a
in
degree,
biology.
any degree will do.
Yeah. I was senior accountant, and my boss was like, we can't promote you any higher. I'm sorry. You need a degree of some kind. Like that. Well, that sucks. You had a story about the library job, right?
Kind of the same thing where
they told you you're literally doing the job that we want to hire you for, but until you get the degree, we can't pay you more for what you're doing.
I'm considering, maybe getting my master's because that's the only way you can get a job as a librarian. And my boss was like, that'll be super easy for you because you already know all of it. You just have to pay $15,000 and spend, 2 years and do all this busy work and memorize all this bullshit. But but you already know all of it, so it'll be a breeze. And I was just like, okay, could I just pay them and then get the paper? Nope. Turns out.
You're like, if you literally know this, why are you making me jump through this stupid bullshit hoop?
Probably because of some kind of lost purposes.
Yes. So yeah, let's get back to
we've
this.
Lost purposes.
The next thing I pulled out was politicians want to look like they're doing something about educational difficulties. The politicians have to look busy to voters this year, not 15 years later when the kids are looking for jobs. The politicians are not the consumers of education. The actual consumers of knowledge are the children who can't pay, can't vote, can't sit on the committees.
Emancipate children.
Yeah. Teachers might complain, but they aren't the decision makers, and ultimately, it's not their future on the line, which puts sharp bounds on how much effort they're willing to spend on unpaid altruism. Which, I've met a lot of very altruistic teachers, but there's definitely a certain line. I've seen my mom do things for my little brother who has schizophrenia that I know no human would do for someone that wasn't their direct child, most likely. At least 99.99% of humans wouldn't, because it's a lot of work.
I've had a rare but really memorable few examples of teachers who clearly loved the subject and actually wanted to it. Mm-hmm. Which it's weird to pull that out as an example of going above and beyond, but I remember a lot of early Irish history, even though it has nothing to do with anything in my life, because I just had this great teacher who would excitedly overturn a bunch of desks and act out different battles and draw crazy diagrams on the board, and it was impossible not to be interested. It was infectious.
Yeah.
And it was just such a stark contrast between teachers like that, where again, even if you're this is a requirement for my literature minor.
Dude, good teachers are fucking amazing.
I was I love this class. I was looking forward to going to that class.
Mm-hmm.
And then subjects, I had some teachers just ruin subjects I really liked.
As long as we're on the subject, it does sort of blow my mind why somebody would get credentialed to get into a low status, low paying job that they don't want to do.
I think a
lot of teachers hate teaching.
Yeah.
Do they? I mean, a lot of my
awful.
teachers hated teaching.
Oh, that sucks.
I mean, I feel like they did because they seem to hate kids.
And they burned out.
Maybe.
I get the impression that a lot of them are like that.
Also, I think teaching is extremely high status.
I think that ought to be higher status, but I guess I'm not belittling teachers. I have families. I have a family member that's a teacher. I liked a lot of mine, but I guess I don't know where it would stand on the rank of what do you do for a living. But I guess I assumed that if it was higher status, it would pay more. But
no. Oftentimes, status is used in place of payment. You can pay people less if a job is high status.
That's a good point.
I wouldn't put teachers as high as firefighters, but I usually hear them referred to it in tones that are close to as high as you refer to firefighters.
Yeah.
I think people pay a lot of lip service to teachers, but telling someone your job as a teacher is not going to earn you a lot of respect. I know because my mom was a teacher.
Okay.
And it was, always considered a respectable job. It's that's a good thing to be, but it wasn't oh, well, thank you for your service.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the impression I get. My mom and my middle sister, both teachers.
I know that people tend to talk about them in a much more reverent way than they talk about like a plumber or a carpenter or something.
I think they do in the abstract. I don't really see it translate into actual status for the people doing those jobs.
Yeah, that's why I was saying upper middle class, because like I think that's as high as you can get. My mom and my dad were both kind of like lower middle class, or maybe just lower class, carpenter and teacher, and then my sister was able to get like a teaching degree, and like become a real teacher in a school system that abused her really terribly. But she kind of, I don't know.
But tying this back to the previous point, what Eliezer is saying is, in his exact words, bureaucrats are untrustworthy genies, for they do not share the values of the wisher.
Put that on a t-shirt.
I mean, so we're focusing on the education example from this post, but he also gives the fun anecdotes of like communist factories or factories in communist Russia producing like boots and stuff. And it's like, look, we made lots of boots,
tiny boots.
Yeah, and it's like, look, because like the bean counters want to count lots of beans, so like they're gonna just squint and see that this strap of leather looks, like a bean, and then it's like, yeah, this is all great because our output looks awesome, and we're not going to get shot or something by the government, but doesn't do anything for all of our barefoot soldiers out there freezing their toes off.
And it's fun to laugh at.
May I offer for your consideration the FDA?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that because like I said, I worked in clinical research, and there's just entire jobs that exist, like entry-level jobs, like I was doing, to babysit clinical research associates, CRAs, or monitors, who are representatives from the sponsors to say it's, I don't know, Moderna, and they come twice a week, and you have to just drag all of your paper binders like on a cart, because there's like hundreds of them sometimes, and they're massive. I have photos. They're really well paid, so maybe it's worth doing it for a few years, but it just seems like you just get flown all over the world to go sit in like a dimly lit room and go page after page through paper binders. My whole job would be giving them the access to the EDC, dragging all the binders out, trying to catch all of the doctors and nurses who did different things to like verify that, yes, in fact, this patient's heart rate was this on this date. Like to my memory 5 years ago.
I used to get paid hundreds of dollars an hour by insurance companies to go sit through construction law depositions and not do anything.
Sounds super fun.
Yeah, it's pretty boring, but
what was your job there? Just to
show up,
have a lawyer in the room? Like, why would they pay you that money?
So the way construction law works is if a building collapses, there's any defect in the construction, they sue everyone who worked on the building. So there's like, and then the ghost contractors sue all their subcontractors to be like, no, this was really your fault. So you have like 15 parties.
It was Jeff the plumber.
Yeah, right. So you have like 15 parties in every litigation. So when there's a deposition, every party has a right to sit in on the deposition and ask questions if they want to. And so the insurance companies who are funding all this litigation, most of them will just pay for you to go sit there in the deposition, even if you don't have any questions, to like observe.
It's the metaphorical tiny boots of America.
Are you looking for, I don't know, shady deals being made or something? Is that what you're there for?
No, I'm there to observe the deposition so we know what happened. And like,
he's legal presence.
You're there to look professional.
If somebody doesn't ask, an obvious question that they should ask, then I can step in and ask that. But in reality, that just would never happen.
So you do actually have to pay attention. You can't just like sit on your phone scrolling Discord or something.
I mean, I paid attention so I could, because I would like write up a little report at the end to show that we did something. But it was nothing that couldn't have been done just from the transcript.
Okay.
And I was not a construction lawyer. Like I was just I didn't know anything really about construction law. Yeah. So there was no way I was going to think up better questions than the people who were like the lead in these depositions.
We should probably get through this because it's been a while now. He quotes, gosh, I don't remember who it was.
Oh, Musashi, right?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Saying the primary thing when you take a sword in your hands is your intention to cut the enemy, whatever the means. Why would an individual lose track of their purposes in a sword fight? He thinks maybe if someone else had taught them to fight, if they had not generated the entire art from within themselves, they might not understand the reason for parrying at one moment or springing at another. They might not realize when the rules had exceptions, fail to see the times when the usual method won't cut through. And then he draws that forward to compare it to rationality, saying the essential thing in the art of epistemic rationality is to understand how every rule is cutting through to the truth in the same movement. Which I thought was really great, because sometimes we do lose track of why we're doing this thing and just like, oh, well, you are falling prey to this bias or you aren't doing this way of thinking correctly. But sometimes if you know that the whole point is to get through to the truth, you do see places where the rules have exceptions or where the usual method isn't working.
Kind of bringing it around full circle when we started talking about frame controllers. If you're doing rationality right, you should be looking for weaknesses in your own technique like that. You know, like, am I doing this for these reasons that I think I am? Like, these noble, cool reasons? Or am I avoiding my own flaws or getting defensive over things that maybe I should actually, like, you know, criticism I should be listening to, etc. And then, like, what's my overarching ultimate goal here? And then how does that relate to my values?
Mm-hmm.
It's like a little segue.
Oh. Okay. Alrighty. Okay, real quick before we go, Eliezer does say that it seems this lost purposes thing seems to bother him a lot more than a lot of other people, and wonders why that is. And specifically, he wonders, like, why were his fellow kids in the religious school just willing to say prayers whose words they didn't understand?
Oh, that was how the article started. We were just cutting out a few different sentences, but I actually really liked the beginning of this where Eliezer said, I went to Hebrew school and I was told, here's this prayer and it's in Hebrew and you have to memorize it. And he said, will it work if I don't know what the words mean? And they were like, oh yeah, as long as you say it in Hebrew, it will totally work. And he's like, and that's when I lost my faith. I forget if those were the exact words, but I became much more skeptical on this day.
And I assume it's because Eliezer took his religion seriously as a kid, and he believed it as model of the world, and
man after my own heart, because I was the Catholic that leapt repeatedly off a desk praying to God to make me fly after I was told that God will grant your wishes as long as you are following the 10 Commandments and don't commit sins.
Like
you forgot to ask what kind of genie God is.
A dick one. Like I love that. Like, my takeaway from that wasn't the God of the Old Testament or the New Testament doesn't exist, but it was like, God exists and he's an asshole, and I'm not gonna care about him anymore. But I would still talk to God in my head for a long time, because this was, I don't know, I was like 3 or 4 or something, and like I spent a while just being like, yeah, fuck you, God. You think that I should do this thing, and
like our teachers claim that these
you're
are
not even helping me with
our teachers claim that these are real models of the world, and we believe them because I guess we're neuroatypical. But as far as I can tell, like, more neurotypical people just like know instinctively this is all a social thing. It's a signaling game, and the nonsense ritual, like, the whole point of it is to be a nonsense ritual to signal your social affiliations. And so, like, when they say it, it's doing the work that it's supposed to do, which is social signaling. So it doesn't, like, clash for them. They never really felt like it was supposed to model the world, right?
I don't know.
Like,
I'm not neurotypical.
Me neither. It just seems like with more neurotypical people, it feels like the entire view of the world is just as a social thing. And so
I don't know what these normies think.
I don't, man.
I don't think that's what they don't think that. They just don't think about it.
That's the answer.
When they do the thing, people are like, yes, good. And then when they don't do the thing, people are like, no, bad. So they do the thing.
Well, that's literally just saying viewing the whole world as a social thing.
But they're not.
People said yes, bad, or no good.
Like you and I can, because it sounds like I'm putting, like, rationalists on a pedestal, or introspective people, or assuming like most people aren't introspective. People compartmentalize their introspection, right? And if they're going to go to church and make the noises and eat the bread or whatever. And
compartmentalization is really adaptive.
Yeah.
I think this also ties into our main topic that we're probably going to get to at some point, which is like, that's just not how people work. Like, they don't have these complicated models of like what this is for and why they do it. They're just conditioned to do it. So they do it without thinking.
That's implicitly treating the world like it's just social games.
Right, but like there's a way to explicitly treat the world like it's social games, and like be aware that that's what you're doing. And when in your initial phrasing, you made it sound like that's what they were doing.
Sociopathy.
That they knew they were playing a game rather than they were just walking around, right?
Well, I mean, if you want to fit in with them, you do have to know that you're playing the game and play it.
If you're aware that it's a game.
Yeah.
But most people aren't aware that it's a game.
I mean,
right?
yeah, like
how I just find it very frustrating that that's their innate view of reality.
Shrug.
Oh my god.
it is frustrating. I don't know.
I really don't think it's that different, you guys. I'm sure we all have things that we just don't think about.
That's sure.
Nope,
yeah,
not me.
true.
I'm you know, perfect
think about my
introspective.
shit until I'm paralyzed with indecision. Just existential despair all the time.
I guess that's the failure mode.
It's not very
about
adaptive.
things. Yeah.
Sometimes you gotta just do the things.
So anyways, he ends by asking, is it possible for people to actually keep their eye on the ball, to have the correct intentions without letting them go astray? And he says, can there be such a thing as a sane corporation, a sane civilization even, which I think is a setup for a famous line from later.
But those are still cool questions.
Yes.
I wonder, do you think there are any sane corporations?
Yes.
Very small ones.
I just heard of one that is like a Ticketmaster program, but all of the profits go to effective charities.
How does that make it a sane corporation, though?
Because that's a smart way to spend money. And it's a great business model that doesn't actually require like
How does it
employees and like real infrastructure.
Oh, it's like automated?
I mean, yeah, it's got to have whatever the base amount, but like you pay $7 for the privilege of using Ticketmaster.
Uh-huh.
You probably pay $7 for the privilege of using. I should remember the thing.
Should link to it after.
I'll find it here in a sec. But you pay the fee, and instead of the fee just going straight to people's pockets, it goes to whatever server costs and stuff. But then the rest goes to charity. That sounds like a sane use of money.
I mean, that's not the question, though. By sane, he means has not lost their purposes, has their intentions clearly in sight at all times.
This sounds like a good example because it sounds like they are trying to help people get tickets to things and also give to charities. I'm
it's
assuming
possible.
That's probably their goals and their values.
Yeah, if their intention is funnel money into effective charities no matter what, then, replacing Ticketmaster as the skim off the top person, finding easy rent-seeking opportunities like
fruit,
that, yeah, and diverting them to charities would be effective.
I mean, I think corporations are much better at keeping their eye on the ball than most other organizations or even most individuals.
Not the medical industry.
I agree for the most part because they have some competitive pressures, but there's a lot of things that will insulate you from competitive pressures too, and that's when corporations start to lose sanity again.
Sure,
that's why I was saying small ones. Small corporations have to be leaner, tighter, and care much more about profit than something rolling by on inertia and favorable regulations that they've managed to get.
No, I'm pretty sure GiveWell is a corporation.
Yeah, I was thinking about effective charity. I'm also thinking about like Ben and Jerry's though. They're pretty cool, right?
I don't know.
I mean, they're hippies, so they donate a lot of money to hippie stuff.
Yeah, I think they just wanted to make cool ice creams.
If our goal, yeah, and they succeeded.
Ice cream and
there is no way that was their only goal. You cannot have a goal of make cool ice cream and become as big as Ben and Jerry's.
All right, if we're planning on ever getting through to the main subject, we can save our corporations in principle sane, or is it possible to have a sane corporation?
And I was going to ask about civilizations next, but maybe that can be another time.
I think that these are too big of questions to wrap up.
These are very
on.
large questions.
All right, maybe you guys can talk about the next episode.
Maybe.
All right, for next time, our Lesser Wrong posts will be purpose and pragmatism and the affect heuristic. Come back in 2 weeks for that. But now we are finally moving on to our main subject, which is roasting Wes.
Nah.
Okay, good. Because I don't actually know what the main topic is.
The main topic is, at one point, Wes was listening to me and Stephen doing Not Everything is a Clue, which is a great podcast we do where we talk about Alexander Wales's novels, Worth the Candle, a novel series, I guess. And Wes commented in our Discord, I feel like you and Inyash both have this crazy idea that values are the only thing that make you the people you are, which I just strongly disagree with. I'm skeptical that values are even a good way of conceptualizing how people work. And we wanted to brawl with you about that specifically.
All right, but you're going to lose.
You didn't tell Wes this beforehand? I assumed you had.
I had, yeah.
You told me you wanted to discuss that. I don't know if there was a larger topic.
That is the topic.
All right.
Especially when you're skeptical that values are even a good way of conceptualizing how people work. How else would you conceptualize what people care about?
Other than values?
I mean, that's what values means. The things that someone cares about, right?
Yeah, but they change every 5 seconds.
No, not that much.
Yeah, they do.
Core values.
How long has it been since your value of I really love my daughter has changed?
I mean, not at all, but
See?
I wasn't
I'm
like
glad you brought that up.
thinking
That's gonna
about
be my
that a
main
minute
example.
ago.
But just because you weren't thinking about it doesn't mean that it stopped being a value of yours.
No, but like I just look, I don't like how rationalists in general talk about values because a lot of the way we tend to conceptualize it is like people are computers that have like a certain set of, bedrock goals programmed in, and that then we have like all these other instrumental goals that are in service of those. And I think that actual people don't work that way. Like what we want depends on what is going on with our bodies and our brains at the time. Like if you haven't eaten in a while, you really value food. If you're super full, you don't value it at all. If if you got certain hormones getting pumped out, you value one thing. If you got other ones, you value something else. Sometimes the thing you want more than anything else is just to sleep. Sometimes you just want to like get out of whatever situation you're in. And then those are like, but like so much of it is physical of like what's going on in your body at the time. And,
to be clear, go ahead. Sorry.
I just feel like to talk about somebody's, and I hear this term a lot, terminal values, is to misunderstand like what actually motivates people.
I'm with you 99% of the way there. And I think that there's probably just some, I don't want to say like damage, but there's like some patchwork needing to be done. And that's been in progress for a while because like the rationality community started as a branch off, with a course with partnering with an economist. Right. Mm-hmm. So a lot of it was, I think there's like this sort of baseline of the homo economicus, and that we've been moving away from that model for the last 20 years ish, 15. But
I think it's been at least 40.
Well, no, but I mean, like rational, like whatever, lesswrong.com starting 2007.
Yeah, but I mean, it started with Robin Hanson. He was never a homo economist kind of person.
No, but the field is.
No, not for many decades now. Behavioral economics has been a huge thing for a long time.
Okay, well, I guess maybe my history is probably wrong, but I feel like there, like you said, a lot of this talk of like, oh no, humans instrumental values, talking about people like robots that are like, irrational if they won't take the $10, in a week rather than the $5 now because $10 is twice as much as $5. Like all that stuff's, I think that's the behavioral economic stuff that I think is like, that's all bullshit, right? Like you might need $5 more than you need $10 in a week. So like, that's where it's like the actual person is making a sane judgment. I guess what I'm saying is I agree with all that. And then too, this was a fun example that I wish I had, because I was thinking about recently, maybe it was that stuff with time looping we were talking about, but when I had the episode of We Want More with Brian, where Harry's taking occlumency lessons, and every time Mr. Bester would read his mind, Harry would look at his watch, and like 6 seconds later, he'd be like, man, I wish I remember the thing about the gold. And Brian was like, I think that's complete bullshit. He would act differently different times. And I pushed back way too hard because he's absolutely right. Yeah. If Mr. Bester, because Harry even says, when you paid this much, you got lessons whenever you wanted. Mm-hmm. If it's 2 a.m, it's going to take him 10 seconds. If he just got laid, he might not think about this at all, right? If he's got blue balled, he might not be thinking about it at all. If he just had a good meal, like his priority, the starting conditions are different every time. That's what made that scene unbelievable for Brian, and he didn't articulate that, I think, as like succinctly as he could have, because I would have agreed with him. But what was I saying? Values? Yeah. So
something about values.
So I don't think that, like, quote unquote values, we'll have to maybe define what that means.
Yeah.
But or at least taboo it one way or the other. But I don't think it's all that make you who you are. I just think that this was probably in the context of the show. Not everything is a clue.
There's probably something to do with soul magic fucking with his values.
Yeah. So spoilers ish for at least halfway through that book. But yeah, it's possible in that story to look at somebody's values as a list, which I think was suspect, but the game has to give you an interface, right? But as long as that's true, you grab somebody's value, in this case, how much you care about your daughter, and put it like way lower than you care about like a microbe, in whatever, the Saharan desert, right? And it's like suddenly you're a different person, right?
Yeah.
Because
also,
that would make you a different person.
I agree.
In the Worth the Candle example, though, didn't they normalize over time?
Yes, they did.
and that had to do with the soul and the spirit were two different things.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the spirit.
Yeah.
Than you guys, since I've read it, but
that was
I find that kind of interesting.
Yeah, that was a game thing, but I wanted to disagree with Wes on. I guess maybe we should say what values are, because like you're saying you value food when you're hungry and you don't value it when you're full. And I mean, yeah, sure, in terms of what I'm willing to pay money for or expend effort to get at that time, but I don't consider those values. Those are more like drives, like a biological drive.
Well, what's a value if it's not something that, motivates you? That's something you want.
It is. I just think you're making it far too fine-grained. It's like saying that if what I value is, I don't know, let's say an example from a recent restaurant post was, I want chocolate, right?
Yeah.
And the person opens the car door to get in the car to drive to the store to buy the chocolate. And that's like you saying, I value opening the door. And like, no, you don't value opening the door. You maybe value the chocolate, but you like value, in quotes, doing all the other steps as intermediate things to get to the store, but you don't have any value for them in and of themselves.
Chocolate is the terminal value in this argument.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like you're making a terminal values argument.
Well, yeah, totally. I mean, that's the thing. Like, it's not that your values change between when you're hungry and when you're full. It's that your body wants to stay in homeostasis, and sometimes that means eating food, and sometimes that means vomiting up food. But but
I think the way your body does that is by by increasing your food value.
All right, we're tabooing values for. We can. I'll let everyone finish their last kicks on it, but I realize that I think we're going to talk past each other if we keep using values.
Yeah, let's cut that out.
No, let's leave it in.
No, not cut that episode. I mean, cut out. Let's stop doing it.
Yeah, because you and I talked about meaning of life last week or the week before, and we didn't successfully stop using the word meaning until like the last 5 minutes, and so I want to actually just like nip this in the bud early.
The existential meaning of life and not the Monty Python movie.
Yes.
I haven't actually seen the Monty Python movie.
Oh shit!
It's okay.
It's a thing.
Yeah,
it exists. All right, I'll add it to my values list.
So in that case, how would we define values?
That's I think going to be one of the confusing, or the crux of this, right? Because if like I really care about. Maybe that might be too close to synonym, but
I like Wes's take. It's a thing that you really want that motivates you to do whatever actions and behaviors you do.
So that's a drive, but like what I really care about is a different kind of thing. That's why it's useful to taboo this, right? Because those are two. Now we're talking two different things, and now we've articulated that difference.
Are we talking about two different things?
So like I might really care about whatever living in a home that I can keep the power on because I like being warm, right? And I really care about like my physical security that way.
But if you were in a body that was physically inviolable, I don't know how to pronounce that, and also never got cold, you wouldn't value a house nearly as much.
That's true. But in service of that goal, since I've got this stupid meat suit, I care about keeping my job. I care about looking good at my job to my people, to the people at my job who are in charge of keeping me on payroll, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not even like I care more about looking useful than I actually care about being useful because I like getting paid, right? That might be a lost purpose kind of thing, but I also like being good at my job because that's one way to look good.
I think what you're describing is that your desires are contextual.
Yes, but they're like in service to like things that I really care about. Whereas like some things I don't like.
But like, what do you really care about? What's the thing there that you really care about?
Being alive and healthy, and that for people I care about, and for the people, well, and for everybody because I'm a perfect altruist, but especially for the people that I like.
But is that what you're thinking about when you eat a sandwich or you go to work? You're like, boy, this will really help me stay alive and healthy.
Well, no, you don't think about it every single second you're doing something, but you already have certain heuristics and habits that you have instilled because you found these were ways to get to those alive and healthy goals.
Yeah, and I think those heuristics and habits are much more fundamental to who a person is. When I think about, like, who is this person? Like, how would I describe them? How do I conceptualize them? It's not about their, I'll call them the things that they really care about or the things that they want very badly. It's much more about the habits they have, the heuristics that they use, the patterns of behavior that they do, or the ways of thinking that they've sort of like worn into their brain.
Oh, that is fucking that is an insight that I hadn't ever considered before. Like that maybe the wonderful altruistic scientist wants a, post-scarcity utopia future, and so does the mean, angry Nazi person that beats up minorities, but the differences in the way they act in their day-to-day life to get there is what makes the difference between the two people.
Yeah, I mean, Hitler wanted a better world.
Yeah.
Cascading values.
He just didn't care.
They probably all had the same terminal values, if you want to call it that. But I don't think that's what makes a person who they are.
I was going to say before we got on this, which this is interesting, but I kind of think of values as a tree graph where you have nodes at the highest level that are things like the basics, kind of like what you're asking, Stephen, I want to stay alive. And then they branch as you go downwards. And so the difference between the Nazi and the effective altruist would be at the very top level is I want to create a great society. But then as it branches, it tells you more about what that means from the context and experiences. And then what you were just getting on is interesting. I kind of wanted to sum that up as revealed preferences, sort of, where there's sort of another layer there where you can say that your values, that people, I guess, have fake values or.
Well, I think, isn't that more indicative of how people, I hate to use the term values again, but the person doesn't value the well-being and comfort of others, whereas the kind, more altruistic person values being seen as kind and values other people around him not being in pain. And therefore, if you were to swap those values in them, then they would start acting, like the opposite, right?
But you'd need the whole chain.
Well, I mean, obviously you can't just magically do it.
They have different definitions of what a great society is. The one person's empathetic and the other is even values order.
Well, and the Nazi might think that, okay, by doing this the mean way, we can get to the perfect future 50 years faster. So it's worth it to do the mean way, right?
I still think
he might actually care more,
though, of what that ultimate outcome looks like.
I think even if they have the exact same definition of what the ultimate great outcome looks like, having the valuing of, other people's comfort or something in there could make a big difference.
Yeah, that's why I think it would be a different definition. If they had the exact same definition, then there wouldn't be any crux.
I guess all I'm saying is that what Wes was saying as, their everyday small little interactions thing is how you judge a person is I would agree with that, but I think that is a reflection of their values.
Yeah, that's why I was saying revealed preference. Two people can say, I want a great society, and that's what I'm aiming towards, but you can watch the one person give to effective charities and be nice to homeless people and I don't know. And then the other person beat up minorities, like you mentioned. And it's okay, so that means different things to you too.
Mm.
I'm pretty skeptical of the idea of revealed preferences.
How so?
I just don't think it's a useful way to, I don't think it necessarily pays rent in terms of anticipated experience as well as a different conception does. So when people say, revealed preferences, they're saying, okay, well, you say this is what is important to you and this is what matters and this is why you do what you do. But then I look at your actions and it doesn't match up to me.
Yeah.
And so by that, I will conclude that that's not really what you care about. And
right.
When I look at that, I don't necessarily say that's not what you care about. It can just as easily be there's some reason why you haven't connected the thing that you care about to the specific action that you could take that would be in service of that. And maybe if I can show you, how a different choice that you made would get you the thing you care about, maybe you'll change your behavior. So maybe that was your preference and you just didn't realize it. Or maybe you just, you have bad habits and you have trouble breaking out of them. That doesn't mean you don't care. It just means it's hard for you.
Yeah. I mean, things like executive dysfunction are part of who you are too.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot of, even there's this concept of willpower that if you had enough willpower, you would do it. And I feel like that's also kind of always talked about in ways that don't necessarily reflect reality. That it's people's brains work a certain way, our bodies work a certain way, and sometimes they just do things that we don't endorse. That if our system 2 would say not to do, but you just can't help it.
I have this fear that has been alleviated because I've been in emergency situations, but like it's still in the back of my mind. Like I want to believe that I'm the kind of person that would like, push a little kid out of the way and sacrifice myself if they're like about to get hit by a bus.
Mm-hmm.
Or, that I would do like cool heroic things. And I think this is really common with a lot of people where there's this fear that in the heat of the moment you'll do something cowardly and then feel like
and I think someone who liked to talk a lot about revealed preferences would say, aha, well, now I see that you think you're more important than a little child if you failed to do that. And I where I would say is, oh, that was like,
or you're just naive to emergency situations.
Yeah, like you just
panicked.
You panicked. Your thought process didn't work fast enough. Your reflexes aren't fast enough, maybe, or you weren't prepared for this situation. It didn't know what to do.
Go ahead, Inash.
Well, I can concede that there are many factors why someone might do something, including just breakdowns of executive function or whatever. But I think that there is still underlying both values and in general characteristics or character traits or something of people where you can
personality traits are pretty well studied and they seem to be quite stable over time.
Right.
Like the big five.
Yeah. So there, I don't think you can just say there's no such thing as things that motivate people and that people value and characteristics that they have, just because in some situations they may fail.
I didn't say there's no such thing. I just said those don't really explain all that much about a person.
I think we're sort of like angrily
the thing I objected to. Like the thing I objected to originally was I think you guys were saying like your values are the thing that describes you, who you are, like what kind of person you are. And I just think that's nuts. Like, do you think a person that cared an equal amount about all the things you care about would do podcasts?
If they cared about doing podcasts as much as we do, I guess. But
do you guys...
to be clear, that doesn't sound like something I would have said though. That your values.
No, I think Inash said that.
I accidentally ended up on this podcast because I just liked hanging out with Inash and Stephen, and this is the easiest way to do it.
But yeah, well, and I liked having conversations with you guys, and doing it in front of a microphone was the only way to make sure that happened with any regularity. But there's
something wrong with me.
No, it's good. But
I think Inash does podcasts because he enjoys podcasts and he's good at being on podcasts. It's got a propensity for it. He's got a talent for it, and none of those are. I can say all of that without referencing anything that he cares about.
The gasp was just because I saw a dog.
But so I think if I was talking about it in the context of Worth the Candle, it would be like if we could see your values, your character sheet, yours in particular, and I wanted to use and abuse the example of like your care for your daughter as well, because I think it's just the perfect like way to demonstrate the point. Like you care a lot about her. She probably makes the top 5, maybe top 10 most days, right? Like I'm being flippant, but so like if some evil elf were to soul rape you and put throwing her into a volcano as like the thing you cared more about than everything else you've ever cared about in your life put together, you wouldn't be you anymore. That was the case. I don't think you agree with that. I don't think you disagree with that.
Yeah, I don't think that like someone with our exact same values would do the exact same thing. There's a lot of personality and circumstance and stuff. Yeah, but I think if you were to take how much I enjoy podcasting, I guess, and turn it way down and maybe alter some other thing about me, that would drastically change who I am to the point where you could say, I'm a different person now. Sure,
but then you're just talking about like different degrees. I'm just saying there's a lot more that goes into it than just what you value.
Can I try to make her? Oh, keep going.
Oh, well, I was interesting that you brought up the Worth the Candle example, because I think the fact that character sheets work that way is a big clue that this is actually just a simulation, because real people don't work that way.
I think that I agree. But I wanted to give you a chance to answer, or I guess to put it this way. So if we did switch yours to where like you really cared about throwing your daughter into a volcano, would that be you with a hugely different goal in life, or would that be a completely different person as far as you're concerned?
I mean, I still have continuity of consciousness, right?
I suppose.
I still feel like me, still remember being this person, right?
Okay, that's a fun answer. I didn't think you'd give that one.
Yeah, of course it's me.
But I see where you're coming from.
I mean, that's a different definition of yourself.
I would feel like even though this isn't the case, it would feel to me like I had been killed and replaced by somebody with my memories, but wanted different things.
Yeah, but that happens every 10 minutes.
Well, not so dramatically.
No,
not so
Every 10
dramatically.
minutes,
but
but
it
like-
happens pretty dramatically over the course of 20 years or
What is
so.
it? Every 7
Well,
months, don't we shed all of our cells, or
I think it's 7 years.
7 years?
But
I
yeah.
know that there was a 7 in there.
And it
We're
depends
just
on
ship
the
of
cells, actually.
Theseusing
Yeah.
around
Some
the
cells-
world.
Some cells are renewed much faster than
Where,
others. But, I mean...
Star Trek teleporting.
Yeah.
But, Jace, did you have something you wanted to say?
I want to let Inash finish his thought, and then I have a silly proposition.
Okay.
Well, to take your example where you said that values change slowly over time, I agree very strongly. And I think, from the outside, since people assign personhood based on bodies, and therefore I am, to everyone else, the same person I was, when I was born. But in my personal opinion, the Eneash that was around when I was 7 years old has been entirely killed and replaced by someone new. And I don't consider them the same person at all. And a lot of that was...
You don't act like the 7-year-old you was killed.
Well, what am I going to do? Mourn 7-year-old me?
Yeah, that's what you would do if they were killed. Like, you're sitting here talking about it, and like, I don't hear any grief at all in your voice.
I'm glad you don't hear any grief. There very rarely is grief, because after 30 years, you move the fuck on at some point. But, every now and then I do think about that, and I wish you could crystallize moments in time and not lose those people, because that was a valuable person too, I thought.
Right, but you don't think that's as tragic as an actual 7-year-old getting killed, do you? Or do you think that?
No, I think it's less tragic because there is no trauma to all the people around that 7-year-old. When everyone else is slowly changing as well, there's no grief for the lost 7-year-old. It's only in retrospect.
But shouldn't there be?
No, I don't know.
I love how heavy this conversation is. Sorry, I just can't comment. The dog is chewing in the background, and it's really funny. So if you're chuckling, it's not because we think the idea of 7-year-olds dying is funny. It's because
there's a dog doing adorable things in the background, and we're trying to keep straight faces.
Sometimes there's things like if people have a drastic change in personality because they start doing drugs or something, or some whatever,
There's
other people will mourn that. Yeah, they will have grief, even not just changes in personality because of drugs. Sometimes people have a revelation and they convert to a new religion, or they drop out of a religion, or they change political affiliations or something, and their former friends and loved ones may indeed say, I miss who you used to be. You're a different person. Yeah, and there's a level of grief there. So I do think that can happen.
Sure, but I don't think it's viewed. I don't think anyone really views it as the same thing as somebody dying.
It's a matter of degree.
Yeah, there's sort of endorsed changes versus not. Say someone gets a traumatic head injury and suddenly they have 60 IQ, and there's so little of the person that you knew left.
Yeah,
that's terrible.
Yeah,
but if I think that. I happily murder myself every 7 years to become a stronger version of that person.
Yeah.
But I also have kept journals since I was 11.
You guys are murdering me right now by making me think different things.
Right?
I can
die, Wes.
I'm doing it. I'm doing it just very slowly.
I can go back and empathize with the person that I was at different periods in my life because I've journaled so much of it.
This is also why I don't think the Star Trek transporter is a suicide box, because you have the exact same values and thoughts and emotions when you come out the other side, even if, it's a completely different body and different atoms. So it's the same person.
I think I wanted to make a sort of, jokey fake model. But I want to say that, just for the sake of argument, I think that what makes someone who they are is a combination of their biological body and impulses, their values, their experiences, and their personality, which I'm talking about specifically Canoe, Big Five, then maybe also the Dark Triad.
I wonder if we have anything else to say on this particularly, or if not, if this kind of might transition a bit into what I wanted to ask you about was wireheading. But that might be a subject, a larger subject for another time if you want. But I feel like it might be succinct. I don't know.
I think that's important because
wireheading is pretty
the destruction of everything you value.
That's what I was thinking, right?
Well, so before we get on that, though, I want to does anyone actually disagree that there's a lot more that goes into who a person is than their values?
No, that's why I thought this was fun, like setup, because I'm like prepared to be surprised. We agree.
Yeah.
I angrily in agreement.
Well, I specifically want to hear from Eneash because he was the one who said that.
Yeah, no, I do think there's a lot more than just values, but you said that when you say I'm skeptical that values are a good way of conceptualizing how people work, I actually think values are a good way of conceptualizing how people work. And maybe that's the deontological Christian upbringing in me, but I think you can
I have something to
you can model people to quite a great degree based on their values, with maybe some terms thrown in there for how dysfunctional their brain and or body is.
See, I feel like if you told me what a person, like what they want most, what they care the most about, I would I would not be able at all to predict their behavior.
What, just one thing?
No, like give me a list. Give me like their character sheet that has all their values and their levels. I would never be able to tell you what they do because it's all super context dependent and like just way more dependent on their habits and their ways of thinking and like how they generally accomplish goals and what just like how they operate. Is so much more relevant to like being able to predict their behavior than what they care about.
I can push back on this. I think I couldn't tell you what they would do, at 4:30 p.m. today or something, right? Mm-hmm. But I could probably give you a not that inaccurate view of their week if I understood their values really well. Like if for example, physical fitness,
community,
whatever,
animals.
Like my family, like woodworking. If I saw their top 10 and those things are on there, like okay, they go to the gym. They take care of the house. They own woodworking equipment that they probably work with, semi-frequently.
And I think importantly, you might be able to have a model of, given if this person was put in this context, what do you think they would do? You might have a pretty good guess.
Yeah, I
don't think that's true at all.
That's so fun. I like it.
That is fun.
I think you have to know like what their heuristics are and what their patterns of behavior are to really know what they do. Because I think you can value exactly the same things as someone else and you'll behave radically
I agree
different.
With that, but it's because of my whole concept of revealed preferences.
Right. No, I think you're right. Because like if you think that the world is flat, even if you have the exact same values of someone else, you might be doing things radically different than someone who doesn't think that. But, that's... Sure, I guess having accurate knowledge is very important too.
But like I had a coworker at my last job who talked often about how he enjoyed fitness and he had a body like Captain America. But even if I had never seen him, right, I could guess because I never observed him at the gym. We worked in different states. But I bet he went to the gym every, if not every day, at 5 times a week, right?
Sure, but I don't know anything about his values. But I do know, since you described some of his behavior, I can tell you he didn't do CrossFit. Because he would have told you if he did CrossFit.
But I can tell you one thing about his values. He valued going to the gym, or he valued looking physically fit or something, right?
He probably, I would guess he valued looking good.
Yeah.
Looking good, feeling good.
All right, that's fun. So does this tie in at all to wireheading, or is this a completely different subject? I feel like they're tightly coupled, but I feel like we give you a bit like nudge nudge wink wink hard time once in a while. You're like our go-to wirehead guy.
You're the only person who's pro wireheading that I know.
I think this is a different disagreement, but it's related.
I think it's very strongly related because wireheading is basically the killing of all your values, right?
Well, let's let Wes set the ground for the framework for this, okay, if we're gonna engage on it.
Wes, what is wireheading?
I don't know what it is, but the one I'm in favor of is basically you're hooked up. Maybe it's just your brain. Maybe it's, I don't know how you do it, but somehow you're just given like the best possible brain state that is achievable. So you just feel great all the time. And then there's some kind of AI or something that keeps you alive for as long as possible in this state.
So you'd be a centaur.
Well, you're not merging with the AI. The AI is just kind of taking care of you.
It's just riding you.
It's not riding you. It's feeding you, basically.
I'm just being.
You're like in a pod in the Matrix.
Yeah.
Except you don't even get the rich social dynamics of interacting with other humans in the Matrix.
No, the AI is just a pod.
You do if that's necessary to achieve the best possible brain state, but I don't think it is.
It could be the friendship is optimal world. I guess.
We're assuming it's not right now because Wes doesn't think that's needed. And in the classical wireheading, that was never posited either. It was just like you hook up a wire to your head and it makes you feel
It pumps like Orgasmatron.
Yeah. Whatever it is that is the best possible brain state for you. And
yeah, I mean, real life wireheading is with current technology is terrible. It sounds like absolute hell.
Yeah,
it's
but
like heroin,
if you
right?
could get that real life,
heroin sounds way better.
If you could get that real life wireheading tomorrow, and it meant that Roxy would not have a father, you would jump at the chance.
Well, I'd want her to get it too.
That's not an option.
Well, then I probably won't do it.
Oh, so
No.
wireheading isn't that great after all.
No, it is. I'm
Did
just
someone say revealed preference?
yeah, right. Exactly. No, because I'm weak.
You're not choosing the best thing because you want to choose less good things.
Yeah.
I think that's perfectly consistent. Like,
Yeah, but I think if somebody that wireheaded me against my will, they would be doing me a favor.
oh, interesting. See, I would hate to be modified without my consent.
Wait.
But you are all the time.
Hold on.
They're all
if
doing it to you right now.
But it's
let's get back to that in just a
Okay,
second. Wait, that thing really surprised me because you said you would not choose to be wireheaded if it would
Right.
mean Roxy would be without a father.
Right.
But you're saying if tomorrow wireheading was available just for you for some reason, and somebody ambushed you and forced you to be wireheaded,
Jumped out of a bush.
yeah, against your will, and Roxy would be left without a father, that guy's doing you a favor?
Well, I'd definitely thank him afterward, wouldn't I?
Well, yes, of course you would.
So
Well,
this
yeah.
might be analogous to Jace's
where's the
example of
problem?
like wanting to be a hero in a crisis,
Uh-huh.
and it's like I'm paralyzed by fear. I wish I wasn't. But
The problem is that your daughter doesn't have a
somebody
father.
could have pushed Jace to be like, no, actually, go do the hero thing, and you're like, all right, now I'm fucking doing it. I'm glad you pushed me. Thank you. I really wanted this, even though I didn't have the courage. Is that kind of analogous to what you're saying here?
It's more that I'm working on corrupted hardware. That intellectually I know that's the right choice. I just wouldn't be able to pull the trigger.
Huh.
It seems like you're just more self-aware than us in some ways, potentially. Like,
That's probably what it is.
I
was talking about sort of like revealed preferences, but like also there's aspirational values.
I am unwilling to say that the fact that I can be hacked and destroyed means that it's a good thing that I was.
I mean, it's not always a good thing. It's only a good thing if you end up better off.
Yeah, well, therein lies
By
the
your
subjective
definition of
value.
better, yeah.
I don't think I would be better off if I was forced to be wireheaded, even if, the future me did thank them for it. I think I would be an impoverished existence and very, very close to being dead, basically.
Yeah, but that's because you have crazy ideas like that the real world matters.
More like that other people matter and they're in the real world.
Other sentient beings.
Well,
Yeah.
then wirehead them too.
That is actually my crux, though. I admit that it's hard to defend in every circumstance, and I wouldn't I wouldn't let the universe die on this hill, but like I do have a sentimental attachment to reality, and so like
Don't worry, we can wirehead that out of you.
Yeah, I'm sure if I was lobotomized properly, that this would be less important to me. But yeah, like this is like a Robert Nozick's experience machine.
It's worse. At least you experience things in the experience machine.
It sounds like it, right? Like you have a good life
machine.
in there, right? That's the idea, not just like you're blissed out.
No, I think most likely to achieve the optimal brain state, you would just end up blissed out. I think that's
Right, no.
I think that's as good as you could possibly feel.
I don't think
I
so.
know.
I
Yeah, I mean, if it turns out that's not the best you could feel, then I mean, then do something else.
It's really
But-
hard not to just think that Wes is being intentionally contrarian here just to troll us, but I know
What?
he's
Wes
not
would
because
never.
he's fucking Wes. Yeah.
What?
It just
Why
is so
is this
hard.
Why is this hard to believe? That like just feeling good all the time would be awesome.
I don't value feeling good as much as I value feeling competent, for example.
I don't value feeling good as much as I value
Solving a problem.
interacting
But you
with
could
other
feel those too. They could just hit the button in your brain that makes you feel that stuff.
Wait,
exactly, which makes it useless, worthless.
There's Rick and Morty season 3 episode 6 Rest and Ricklaxation.
Mhm.
Stupid pun names. I mean, I love them. Sorry.
I remember this episode.
Yeah, there's like they go to this alien spa that takes all of the toxins out of them, but
Oh,
it actually takes the personality traits that they think are suboptimal,
Mhm.
and it includes, for like example, Well, I mean, I think it's really funny that like they take away, I think, Morty's anxiety, guilt, and shame, so he just becomes like the Wolf of Wall Street, like, like a fucking monster. And then like Rick becomes from the outside really healthy, but he realizes one of the things that took away was his irrational attachments to his grandchildren.
Yeah,
that's kind of why I feel like someone's whole personality is who they are, and I think that it is a death of a kind. Like I was talking about endorsed versus unendorsed changing. I like to think that, like what I was saying, like I happily have killed my past selves because I think that I'm a better version of my past selves, and I can go back and read my journals and remember, what things I was struggling with. And
I like what you said about personality, because a wireheading basically gives you a personality-ectomy.
Yeah.
There is no personality there anymore. There's no human there anymore.
Personality and sort of values too. All you value is more orgasmatron, whereas like the things that motivate me that I enjoy consistently are learning, solving problems, and
that's because you haven't tried this bliss drug yet.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
I think this is actually like really, really relevant to the earlier discussion, because I feel like you guys only care about that stuff because of the context that we live in. Because all that stuff is useful in this context. And like you would live an impoverished existence and not be able to accomplish your goals and have a pretty shitty life if you couldn't do all that stuff. But if we lived in a different world where you didn't need to do any of that, then there wouldn't, like, why would it matter?
I think that interacting with other people and playing complex, infinite games is actually very, very much more valuable and enjoyable in its own right than just being blissed out.
I've tried hedonism and I hate it.
But you haven't tried.
But if you hate it,
hedonism.
Like the whole point is you wouldn't hate it. It would, whatever thing you like, that's what it would do.
And I might as well just die.
Yeah.
What's the point?
I mean,
that actually is a good point.
There isn't one. There's no point to anything. Guys, wake up.
But you make your own meaning, and I like being able to do that.
I actually agree with Wes on that last one. We just had an episode that's going to be a special episode for subscribers of Not Everything is a Clue, where I basically argue that nothing has any meaning, and there's no point to anything. But also, this would be even worse than the wireheading.
Nothing matters except this.
I want to touch on something that's only tangentially related, because I was thinking about it this week. Was you said that you happily murder your past self every once in a while to level up, and I like that phrasing. And years ago I was on a podcast about I don't know, spoilers for Endgame. I hate having to caveat, but
you get those people in the Discord.
We watched Infinity
Fair enough,
War
though.
today.
That movie had just come out, so I do apologize to that person that we gave that thing about Spider-Man 2. But passing past that, in Endgame, Nebula has to shoot Nebula of what it would have been 9 years ago or something in universe. That one came from 2014. Then there was the 5 year after the snap, which would have been
Current
2019, 2022.
Yeah.
All right,
Some years ago. And one of the co-hosts of the show that I was on was like, that was such a profound moment, and I'm like, that person sucked.
Yeah,
and she had to kill her because she was going to ruin everything. And it's like
she had added the values of caring about having empathy and caring about specific people and the world.
And
continuing.
like it didn't even strike me as like a
Aspiration
particularly
to
profound metaphor, because it was so heavy-handed. It's like, this was a bummer, but like that wasn't the part of the scene that was like impactful. But I remembered I think I came off flippantly dismissive of it, and I just like it occurred to me randomly. I haven't seen the end of these movies recently, but I was like, okay, that's how I should have articulated it. And now years later, I get to correct the record for nobody, because it's been a long time, but that's all right.
I just wanted to push back against, I don't know, like I'm joking about killing my past self, and you had kind of brought up like, do you think that like you should kill this 7-year-old or whatever? And it's just like, no, I would never kill a 7-year-old to like replace them with a better version. But like, there's the concept of growth. There's the continuity.
Yeah. So I object to the phrasing, not only of murdering your past self, but if I'm going to assume that, I object to it as you murdering your past self, because it's not you doing it. It's your environment. It's everyone else who's doing it to you.
Yeah.
You're changing in reaction to stimulus. You didn't choose any of this.
I'm an Adlerian. I think you can choose much more than people think.
I don't know what an Adlerian is. Is it a person who believes in free will?
Yeah, to some extent.
Oh, yeah.
Adler was a psychologist that lived at the same time as Freud and had opposite or very contrary like opinions to Freud, saying that you're basically just the sum of everything that happened to you in your childhood, and also lots of weird sex things and metaphor, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously genetics, right?
You have control over your, like, you do your tasks, other people do theirs.
I wasn't laughing at the Adlerian or the what Dan Dennett would call elbow room version of free will that you were describing. I was laughing at Wes just saying, well, oh, that's silly.
No, I know.
Just laughing at my flippant laugh out loud listening to the Mind Killer podcast, available on alternate weeks that this show comes out.
Yeah.
I was recently trying to decide some things about like where I'm going to move and what job I'm going to do, and like because I'm such a goddamn nerd, I was on a long drive and I was like, all right, so first of all, we have to figure out whether or not we have free will. And I spent like 10 minutes like just ruminating on that before I was like, no, I think I choose to believe I do, so I can just move past this and get to the actual.
Oh, see, I just moved past it regardless.
I think Wes has a point that a lot of what, shapes us is our environment, and we have very little control over it, but we don't have no control over it.
Of course we have no control over it. It's all physics. It's all just atoms interacting. We live in a deterministic universe, and even if we don't, it's indeterminate at the quantum level. We don't have any influence over that either. I
think that people, I mean, if we're going to just like succinctly summarize our views on free will, like there's an important, and you're not denying the distinction between like being coerced or forced to do something and like getting to quote unquote choose it. Right. It's like, you get to do what you want, right?
Right.
You don't necessarily get to pick all of your wants, but sometimes you're like exposed to something that changes your mind, and then you're like, oh, okay, now I'm this now. Or years later, it creeps up on you and completely changes who you are, and you didn't get to really choose that, right?
Like transitioning.
Yeah, but it could just be, I don't know. I'm trying to think. I don't know of a quick example I could give, but
you can use mine.
I guess I just don't like that. Yeah, well, it's fine except for yours has like the decision at the end of it. Like if you want to physically transition, you have to like actually put in work, right? Rather than like, and I was thinking more of like something that happened to you from the outside, like I was driving, listening to a podcast. I don't know how I found the Rationally Speaking podcast, and Julia Galef mentioned HPMOR, and then 10 years later, here I am on a podcast that's the name stems from a joke from that book, and that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't like been at a stoplight and squiggled down HPMR on my phone or something, right? Like I didn't get to choose any of the factors that led up to that stuff, but
he did assign a lot more meaning to that. I mean, I have sort of basically the same story with different details, but I think it was mentioned on Skeptic's Guide to the Universe, and I also just looked it up and then marathon read it. There were tons of other fanfic I was reading at the time, though, and published fiction, and I decided to assign a lot more like meaning, value, interest to that one.
I don't think we really need to get into the free will debate here, because that is an entire podcast.
Yeah.
I just wanted to give my succinct thing on it because I laughed at a moment where I felt like I should at least clarify. So.
I mean, I think
free will is hilarious.
Wes's point is trivially true, that physics is what physics is and is totally deterministic, but also I believe that we have a choice in the way that matters, and we can unpack that some other day if we really want to.
I deny physics.
I think it's very related to the wireheading thing, because like I don't think there's any difference or any meaningful difference between somebody else wireheading you and your environment shaping you into the person who will wirehead themselves.
So
I think once you're at that stage of things, like how it happens is not the important part.
So you don't think there's a meaningful difference between choosing to give $40 to a homeless person and being mugged and someone taking your $40?
No, there is, because that's a very different outcome.
Well, I thought you just said that the how you get there doesn't matter as long as you end up wireheaded either way.
Well, right, but I'm not getting robbed into being wireheaded.
Like your earlier example was literally someone jumping you and wireheading you against your will.
Yeah, but then what the point of that is that once you're wireheaded, it's going to be the same no matter how you got there. If you're mugged versus you decided to donate something, your experience after that is going to be different. Like you could have trauma, You could get PTSD, but you'll have feelings about it. Like your brain state will be different. These are different stimuli that will affect you differently. If you're wireheaded, it's all going to be the same.
I think that's why wireheading is a perfect analogy for being dead.
Yeah,
because
just gonna say, can you come up with ways that, could you just sub out the word dead for wireheading in the whole argument you just made and make a distinction?
Well, being dead doesn't feel good.
Doesn't feel like anything.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's why wireheading is better than being dead.
Are you trying to just add eudolons to the universe? Because we had a whole episode about how that's dumb.
No, I don't care about eudolons. I also don't believe in morality, so I'm not saying we should wirehead everybody. I'm saying if you wireheaded me, it would be doing me a favor.
I mean,
you should want to be wireheaded.
I can't argue with your values.
Do you think that your money right now is being
Thank you. Someone had to laugh at that.
Do you think your money is being used right now in the most optimal way?
Of course not.
So you think it would be a better world if someone were to kill you, take all your money, and use it in the most optimal way?
No, because then he wouldn't be happy. I do get his point. I think it's easy. I disagree with it because I'm a weird sentimentalist who likes meat space.
My money being used in the optimal way would be in the way that makes me happiest. That's the optimal way to use my money.
And I like to think that I care about things outside myself, but
I know that you do, and it's weird.
And here's, you've got a child. Oh, but you like your child being happy insofar as it makes you happy.
This seems like revealed preferences the other way around. You care about shit.
Yeah.
Pretend you don't.
I do.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I do care about
I don't
shit.
care anything about myself, even though I take care of this daughter and make sure she has a happy, wonderful life.
And
no, I do. But if I was wireheaded, I wouldn't.
And I was saying that with a joking smile. I know that, because you're in this suboptimal, squishy, weird meat suit, you actually do love your daughter, and that's actually an awesome thing. So, yeah.
I just think it's great that it's suboptimal that you care about your daughter and you wish someone would mug you and wirehead you.
Toxification.
Yeah, fix it so that you don't care about your daughter anymore. And yet you don't do that to yourself, even though, in theory, you could just stop caring about her.
But that wouldn't solve anything.
It would solve the problem you have where you care about someone other than you.
But that's not a problem. The problem is I'm not happy all the time. It's not because I care about other things. It's because I don't have the technology to make myself happy all the time.
Heroin.
But that wears off. Then you got to get money to buy more.
You probably have enough money that you could stay on heroin until you died.
I mean, give a man enough heroin, he's high for the rest of his life, right?
Yeah.
I mean that in a grim joke way of they'll overdose, right?
What's the difference between being wireheaded for 20 years and dying and being wireheaded for 25 years and dying?
5 years of feeling great.
Eudolons.
Yeah.
It literally just sounds like it's make the number of eudolons go up.
I mean, do you think there's a difference between being tortured for 20 years and being tortured for 25 years?
To you.
5 years of feeling terrible.
To go back on this or to go back on, I guess, my objections, I realized that I was thinking about the friendship is optimal universe earlier, and I just talked about, the last man on Earth and how tragic it was, that he was the last person to be to reject the utopia and died. And then it's am I that guy? Because my instinct to you describing wireheading is I would rather shoot myself than be subjected to that, because it's the same thing.
I agree. That's a good instinct.
But
that's a terrible instinct.
That guy, though.
Yeah, you're that guy now.
Well, I guess the thing is that he was being, threatened with either death in a dead world or come to this fake paradise, where I would rather have continued existence than not. So
I think there's some things that are worse than death, and being wireheaded may be one of them.
I think there are definitely things that are worse than death, but
depends on the definition of wireheading, though, because I actually struggle with whether or not, like I said, the universe of friendship is optimal is a utopia or dystopia. I mean, aside from the needing everyone to value ponies and shoving that value high up in everybody, friendship is something we already value as humans. So
if you ignored the dystopic aspect of the dystopia.
But what if it was just satisfy people's values, and then it doesn't have to be through friendship and ponies?
We already try to do that. That's a good thing.
But we're not a genie.
But if we had a god force that into us, right?
Force what into us?
Maximizing our values.
Yeah,
friendship and
maximize
ponies.
Everyone's values in the most sustainable, healthy way possible, and you can define those terms in legalese forever. But
I think that's literally what we're trying to do as a species.
I think so.
Yeah.
That's what you think we're trying to do?
Yeah.
Some of us.
I think some people are just trying to get through their day. I think some people
Wink
have a
nudge.
job where it's like that's essentially their job, right? Like people working at Miri,
I mean, what
But-
do you think as a species we're trying to do, Wes?
not die.
Invent their government
Nothing.
job?
I don't think we have a species goal. I
To the
think
extent that we do.
we've been selectively bred to propagate our genes, but that's not. I
Right.
wouldn't say that's our goal. That's just
Sure. If there's one thing any reproducing species is for, in quotes, it's to make more of themselves.
Right.
But
So we've been sort of optimized for that. But I
to
wouldn't
make
say that's our
art.
species goal.
Writing stories, music.
right. If once we've divorced ourselves from Azathoth and have become the god shatter that values other things, we can think about what actually we would like to pursue.
Yeah.
And-
So I think everyone has their own thing.
Yeah.
And that's why it is. I mean, yes, everyone has their own thing, which is why we're trying to help everyone be able to maximize what they value.
Whatever that is,
in
unless
life.
they're Nazi. In which
Yeah.
case,
So we
fuck
should
them.
just give them better values and maximize those.
You know, when you talk of raising the sanity waterline, that sounds kind of eerily similar to what
Right?
Rush just
Isn't that what we're
said.
trying to do?
It sure sounds like it. If you put a sinister lens on it, yeah.
I mean, isn't that what coherent extrapolated volition is?
I mean, I certainly
Being like,
think,
well, your values are dumb, but if you were smarter and better, you'd value this. So let's do that.
I certainly think there's some values that are much more conducive to people living together, and others that would create a lot of strife.
Yeah.
You know what? You know what would
I'm-
be really conducive to people living together? Wireheading.
Oh my God! Would it be wireheading?
Connecting them all to pods.
I mean, actually not, because we don't have the technology to have AIs take care of us and stuff. So it's a bad idea now. But eventually.
So the whole thing of
I
You
love
know.
Wes. This is great.
no, it's great.
Yeah, me too. I'm having a great time.
You're the best troll.
It's funny how much he hates trolls on our Discord. Maybe he just doesn't
Funny.
want competition.
Because he's the best one. He's
Yeah,
got to
that's
destroy
right.
the others. Anyway,
See, you guys just say that because you don't have good arguments against any of this.
I think you're being sincere. No, I
Yeah.
I think he's being sincere.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
But
so
I
like
just-
I feel like Eneash, I'm pretty sure you have like this totally unreasonable position that like if we were in the Matrix, that would be bad. That you'd want to like
I think
escape and go live in the shitty world.
I mean, I think it depends on a number of variables, but in general, being in the closer to physical baseline reality is better. Yes.
Yeah, see, I don't follow that at all. Even like beyond the wireheading thing, I feel like the things, if we're making our own meaning, I don't think there's any difference between giving meaning to, people in a simulation or people in quote the real world.
Yeah, no, if I knew that the Matrix existed, and I could pursue basically my goals in there, because my goals are mainly concerned with art and
interacting
bringing
with other humans.
yeah, and in bringing value to other humans and being considered valuable by other humans. I would probably be perfectly happy in the Matrix.
Oh, okay. Then
yeah.
I misunderstood your position. Then.
I'm the weird one who might like the real world, but the Matrix is so much better than the shitty real world.
Yeah.
That like I said, I wouldn't let the universe die on that hill. But
I think
other things being equal, or like if maybe colors were just a little more vibrant in the Matrix, I'd be like, nah, I like the meat space more. But I'm just weird, and I acknowledge that's probably not.
one of the major problems of the Matrix, at least originally, was that you weren't allowed to leave the Matrix. And that can
Yeah.
become a really issue because some people want to interact with the real world and other people feel like they need to do something in the real world to keep the rest of humanity safe or whatever. And I would
had
want
control. There were robot overlords using you as batteries.
I would want people to have the option to bug out to the real world if they want to.
Or give them the controls of the simulation.
But like the
And
weird
use the
thing would be
source
like
code.
if you told everyone this is a simulation, like a lot of people's happiness would tank, and like that's why like I mean this
Would it?
I don't know. Maybe we're getting too far afield. I'm more just I'm stuck up in my own brain on the question of, because you guys both said you'd rather die than be wireheaded, and I'm thinking like gun to my head, that's actually a really tough call. Like I wouldn't volunteer for it, but it's like if I was otherwise going to die, like I might as well just be a bliss, bubble for as long as I can, right? Like why not?
I think personally, from what I experience, there is literally no difference between being dead and being wireheaded, but I would want to be dead rather than being wireheaded, because then I would deny the assholes who are wireheading me the pleasure of thinking that they've done something good. So fuck you. If they're indistinguishable, but the world is better that you don't get to feel good about what you've done to me, I'd rather be dead.
Hey, Eneash, we're gonna wirehead ourselves, so we'll feel good anyway.
I can respect that with your last value being spite.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah. No, like I said, I tried hedonism and I hated it. I think I just get bored. And I know, like, there's always the like, well, then you take the boredom neurons out of your
Right.
brain or whatever. But like,
Eventually, you just take out every neuron, so all that's left is this one neuron in the pleasure center of your brain that's always active.
happiness is a reward signal for doing certain behaviors. Get like the dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine cocktail.
Unless you take all those out.
Yeah, but then you're back to
you're maximizing all of those, and then maybe.
But then you're back to the goal of everything is to reproduce. Like that's what it's all not designed for, but
Iniash mentioned the
optimized
God
for.
Shatter thing.
What's that?
Iniash mentioned the We Are God Shatter sequence.
Yeah.
Like that structure exists to reproduce, but it's gotten really fucked up over time, and we kind of value the ways that now we like art and music and dance and
Evolution lost its
exploration,
purpose.
discovery. Like there's people that choose those things over reproducing, or they have sex with protection and enjoy the relationship they have with the other person. And I happen to like be pretty attached to these. You could call them flaws in our species, but I don't know, gives us character.
Yeah. I'm just saying if you're getting into like what these things are for, like if they're either not for anything or they're for reproduction. Like the impulses in our brain and our responses to things like music and art and
Reproduction and survival.
beauty and all of that.
Yeah, but survival.
Survival is only there to serve reproduction.
Survive over breed, although not like praying mantises.
But survival, instrumental value.
Yeah.
But some of them have to have valued survival, so about 50% of them do, so they continue to have a species.
Of the mantises, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
I'm doing a stupid joke, but female mantids often will cut off the head of the male, mate with him, and then eat the rest of his body.
Hot.
And the males half the time will submit to that. Or, they just get caught.
No, I remember hearing about that. It's pretty famous, but also isn't that like something that turns out to be much more rare in practice than people thought?
If the female is starving, she will eat the male, but most of the time that's not the case. But I'll say that we had a lot of wild mantises around where I lived in New Jersey, and I would often come across headless mantises that, because insects have brains that are spread throughout their bodies, that, would still live a few days.
So she just killed him, not because she was hungry for the whole thing, just to kill him, then basically.
Yeah. I mean, mantises are also
like, how much can you really
very
eat?
violent.
If I were to kill and eat someone, I might be full once I'm done with the head.
It was funny.
And you wouldn't value food very much.
Wes's joke is more succinct. He just said hot. I was going to say, I never thought I'd die this way, but I'd always really hoped.
I mean, it's probably one of the better ways to die.
Can you just wait till after to cut my head off? That'd be great.
I mean, I could get into more cool biology stuff like traumatic insemination.
No, that is not. I don't want to talk about that.
I didn't like the first part of that word at all. Yeah.
All right, just do yourself a favor and Google duck penis.
No, it's too late now. It's already in our heads. No one. So, I mean, if I've ever, this is the closest. This might be among the closest thing Earth has to an info hazard. Don't do that.
I enjoy doing that. I like learning about the weird shit that we have on this planet. I would say look up a tailless whip scorpion. I want to get one as a pet.
I will never do that because you just said you like the
spiders. No, Steven, you don't like spiders. You will fucking hate this thing. It's a spider, but worse.
Don't. Oh, great. That's my brain now. That's all right.
So did we cover all the beefs? Did we get to the second one?
Yeah, man. That was the wireheading stuff. I think.
Oh, the wireheading was the second one? Oh, okay.
And you watched It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, right?
Oh, yeah.
Remember their Thanksgiving one?
Oh, yeah. No, I actually watch that every Thanksgiving.
They're and this isn't like typical of the show. They're just all being uncharacteristically ridiculous. They're inviting, because they burnt bridges all over town, and like they can't rent movies, they can't do whatever. So they're inviting everyone over for Thanksgiving dinner so they can like wipe the slate clean and bury the hatchet. And like one brings a bucket of sand and a hatchet, one brings some slate and a rag, and like
and they serve squash and beef for dinner.
Exactly.
Oh man.
Wow. All right, so Wes, do you have beefs with us that we need to bury?
No, not at all. You guys are great. Okay. You're like my favorite people.
Likewise, bud. This is great.
Awesome.
We can't be your favorite people. We're not even in the same state as you.
I mean, I interact with you guys more than most people.
I thought we were all transhumans here. We're not location dependent, are we?
And I'll tell you what. I'll wirehead you guys last.
Oh my god.
I appreciate it.
I mean, if I Just if you want to do me the best favor, kill me last. Don't wirehead me.
All right.
I'm okay with it.
I'll give you a taste of the wireheading, then ask.
No.
No, but I'll turn it off. So you're back to normal.
I know several people who have tried a drug like cocaine or heroin once and then said that I need to never do that again.
Yeah, you can do that.
And the other thing I was going to say was, if there's a definition of wireheading that's pretty close to the
experience machine?
No, the My Little Pony one. Friendship is optimal world. I might be down for that, because that actually still let people keep their personalities and pursue their other values as long as they were okay with being turned into a pony.
One of the things about the My Little Pony dystopia that was kind of dystopic was that people often ended up in universes where they were the only person. And everyone else was just kind of a flat simulation there to make them...
No, they weren't flat. They were fully sentient.
At least that was, I guess that's up to debate. Yeah,
that's sort of the debate about like whether this is a utopia or dystopia. If Princess Celeste AI was just lying and creating a bunch of pea zombies that lived with you, but she claimed that she was creating sentient life.
In that case, it wouldn't be so bad, yeah.
And also, she was increasing people's mental capacity so their Dunbar's number would go up so they could have more friends. And
that sounds great.
The individual universe bubbles were slowly, like...
Merging.
Honestly,
and I
thought that was pretty cool.
See, it's a dystopia with like, but in a few million years, this will be a utopia, so it was all worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Wes, actually, coming back to what you said, if you could literally in some way turn on the wireheading and then turn it off again and completely revert me and ask me, I think I'd probably be okay with that, because at that point I'd be like, well, that was very similar to being dead, so no, I'd rather not. And I think it would be a very easy way to reject that.
Or you'd be like, holy shit, my pants are soaked. This was awesome. Plug me back in.
But I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, no, I mean, assuming that you really could put me back to how I was before the wireheading, then yeah, it should be fine, because I don't think that would be a hard temptation to resist at all.
All right. Let's compromise. We'll just do heroin together.
Terrifying.
I mean, I want to at some point try heroin, but I'm kind of thinking wait until I'm really old and close to dying anyway, because
I thought you were going to be immortal.
Well, right? Depending on how the future shakes out.
I'm hoping that we can be uploaded and just experiment with different brain states.
That would be great.
I don't do heroin because that was my dad's one recommendation to me about drugs.
Don't ever do heroin?
Don't do heroin. Yeah.
Did he say why?
Oh, it ruins people's lives.
Yeah, one of the people that I mentioned who I know in real life who tried heroin or cocaine and then never did it again was my dad. And he did the same thing with cigarettes too. It's funny because my dad seems like he's a builder and he's just like super, Mr. Rogers-y. And then just every so often, like he'd get drunk and be like, "Hell yeah, I tried cocaine."
He was doing science.
It was so good that I got off it. I was like, shit, I need to never touch that shit again.
I don't understand why people in hospice care who are going to be dead in a matter of weeks aren't just given any drugs they want.
Right?
Get Rachel on at some point.
Dumb laws.
Fucking
I mean, there's nothing.
The FDA.
There's no interesting discussion there. It's because it's illegal.
Medical ethics.
Euthanasia is allowed in Colorado. Medically aid in dying. If you're terminal, you're allowed to check out on your own terms.
That's why this is one of the great states to be in if you are signed up for cryo.
Yeah, right. Remind me to die in Colorado.
Yeah, and I did learn recently that
Valley View again first.
I was, for some reason, I had it in my head. Maybe because I signed up prior to 2016 when euthanasia was allowed in Colorado, but or I think it was 2016. But yeah, back in my day when I signed up, you weren't allowed to be suspended. You weren't eligible for cryopreservation if you killed yourself.
Right.
But now that I did find out a few months ago that since you are allowed in Colorado to have medical aid in dying, cryonicists don't care how you died as long as it was on the up and up. So yeah, you're allowed to take your cocktail, hang out for the hours it takes to kill you, and then have the cryo team right there.
Cool.
I
don't think it's because it's a sin. I think it's because it would expose the
moral hazard
liability. Yeah, they'd be like, "Oh well, you're making all these people kill themselves, so we're going to shut you down now." And
it does have some perversion.
It's probably because your life insurance won't pay out.
And
no, life insurance will pay out if you commit suicide as long as you've had the life insurance for, I believe, at least 3 years.
It depends on the policy.
Okay.
Interesting.
I'm not a life insurance person, but I'm sure it's policy. I'm sure it depends on the fine print.
Yeah. But most life insurances will after a certain period of time.
This is not advice.
All right.
I mean, we're all dying every day anyway, apparently. So.
Oh God.
No, we're all evolving every day, apparently, man.
No, I mean, I actually agree with Wes. We are dying every day.
And evolving.
I continue to observe. I'd like to preserve the ability to just continue to
keep doing stuff.
Yeah, around and observing.
Doing stuff is tight.
Yeah,
it's better than the alternative. I mean, maybe I haven't really. I guess I try the alternative every night when I sleep, and I have like deep sleep, but then that just feels like nothing.
I mean, honestly, the doing stuff is tight is the basic argument for why wireheading sucks. Because doing stuff is tight, and you can't do stuff anymore once you're wireheaded.
I suppose.
I mean, doing stuff is tight, but you got to consider the alternative. We don't have a better one right now.
Yeah. The comeback would be being wireheaded is tighter.
Yeah, that's a bad comeback.
I feel like maybe we should wrap up.
Yeah. All right.
I had a great time. This was fun.
Later than we usually record.
No, I do have to go because David, Lancaster one? David.
Economist,
yeah, Wizard David.
The joke is that they're both wizards now.
Apparently, right?
That's a joke.
But he brought me dry aged steaks, and we're having them for dinner, and Jean's cooking them right now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we are sorry for pulling you away from that for this period of time, but it was great to hang out with you.
Fucker keeps bragging about all of his
friends. Cool. God, wish I had friends.
To say cool chef tools, but
okay,
various meats.
Yeah,
I had a lot of fun with us. We need to do this more often. I feel like we hang out but we don't. I don't know. We don't talk as much as I feel like we do because I listen to you every other week. So,
right.
Friendly reminder: if there happens to be anybody listening to this that doesn't listen to the Mind Killer, check out that show. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a great show.
I enjoy it a lot.
And also, listen to Not Everything Is a Clue.
Oh yeah, it's also a good one.
Yeah. Shameless plug for the other thing that we do.
We'll have links to both of those, but we should plug Wes's harder because he is here now and he is not usually here.
That's true.
Plug Wes Hard sounds like a wireheading joke, and I can get on board with that.
Oh, I thought it was like a title of your sex tape joke.
That too.
Okay.
And on that note,
good night, everybody. And Wes, thanks for joining us.
All right, thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, and now that Wes is gone, we can finally thank a patron without him. We wouldn't want him to know the names of our patrons because then he might wirehead them against their will.
But we're going to tell him the name right now.
Well, if he listens to the show. Why would you listen to a show that you were just on?
Good question.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this episode...
He wants to try to pronounce this name.
I'll give it a shot. This week's special shout out to Victor, forgive me, Ryabstev?
The first one sounded good, I think.
Yeah. Anyway, you mentioned We Want More when you signed up on January 27th, 2021. So almost a year ago today. Anyway, thank you so much. You rock. We appreciate you.
Yes, thank you, Victor. You are helping to fulfill our values by both listening to us and donating money, and we appreciate it greatly.
And we're the cabal of people that are resisting wireheading, so...
That's right.
This is all the wireheading I need.
Yeah.
Okay. God, this gets tortured. I love just beating these jokes to death.
Oh! There's two other things we have to talk about before we go.
Oh my god.
What
are they?
So the first thing is that I am going to Hawaii, so I will not be here for our next episode, and you guys are covering for me, I hope.
That's the plan.
Okay, some kind of topic. You will come up with it. It's going to be a mystery to me, and then I will listen to it, and I will finally get to experience what all of our audience experiences.
Have you never missed an episode?
No, I'm sure I've missed at least one before, but maybe I didn't listen to it.
I've missed.
I know I've missed at least.
I've missed two, I think,
Okay.
because I remembered I listened to the one when I was on honeymoon. I didn't listen to it on honeymoon, but you guys recorded it when I was out. But anyway, the second piece of news is also super exciting, which I'm glad you remembered.
Yes, me too. So one of my values is that I really want to write something good and have people like it, and I have done at least that partly because I submitted a story to the Effective Altruism Fiction Writing Contest, and I won third place. And there's actually multiple prizes for each place, so I was one of the third place winners, not the only third place winner. But yeah, I'm very proud of the story. I'm gonna add a link to it. It's only 1,000 words, which is about 4 pages, so you can read it super fast. It's called I See Dead Kids. It also...
I see dead kids, not icy as in cold.
No. Yeah. Although icy ones could be like
crowd preserved ones.
Yeah, reference. Nice. Yeah, I know. But like I see dead people. I see dead kids. The thing about this contest was that it paid like an enormous amount of money for a fiction contest. So I am getting paid more per word from this than anything I've ever gotten paid for before.
He just bought a house with cash. This is how.
He's super
Not at all
deserving.
true. But I mean, like, the grand prize for this was $10,000 for a story. That is ridiculous. To put in context how ridiculous that is, most full novel advances are half that amount for science fiction fantasy novels.
So you're saying that other writers out there should write effective altruist?
Well, I mean, it's
Fiction.
kind of too late now. They should go back in time and write something.
Do more of these at some point.
Oh, well, in that case, yeah.
But you super deserve it, man.
Yeah. How much do we have to pay you to have you do an audio version of it? Or do you not want to be the one to do it?
I'm going to do it for free.
Rookie mistake, sir. You could have been paid more per word to do an audio version than ever before.
There is some talk going around about maybe producing an audio version of this as well, and if that goes through, I'm going to do the audio version of mine, and maybe contribute on some others. We'll see.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Yep. So yeah. That was my news. I just wanted to promote that because these people are great and paid a lot of money, and they should get rewarded with lots of praise and go to the forums and read this.
Well, thank you for sharing. And for clarification, I know that you didn't do the cash offer on a house. That was just making a joke because it's too good a timing. So
yeah.
All right.
Cool. All right. Thank you for joining us, everybody. And I won't be here in 2 weeks, but these two will be here in 2 weeks, so they'll see you then.
Yeah.
Everybody.
See ya.